Hello everyone, and welcome to my video that I took of the August 12th, 2019 Exeter Township Supervisors meeting. Before I begin, I just want to point out that this video can be viewed on YouTube. It will have the ability to show closed caption. On the right hand side of the video you'll see a few boxes, and one of them is labeled CC, which is closed caption. Once you start the video, click on that and you will see the words appear below at the bottom of the video that's playing. In addition to that, below the video there's a box for comments that I can make related to the video. What I do in there is I put an index. So all the pertinent agenda items will be listed there, and to the right will be a time, which is in blue in color, and if you click on that blue time, it will take you to that portion of the video that you can watch it from there. So you don't have to watch the whole video in its entirety. You can pick and choose which items you would like to listen to. So if you want to go directly to public comments, you'll see a line there that says public comments, and then you'll see a time to the right of that colored in blue. Click on that time and it will take you directly to the public comments. Okay, so a few more comments I would like to make about this video before we start. The audit report was presented to the public and to the board, and during the report no one in the public section was allowed to ask any questions. And by the time we got to the public comment section, the auditor had slipped out. So we did not have an opportunity to ask any questions related to the audit, which is very disappointing for quite a few people, because it's a complex issue, finances, and I'm sure a lot of people had questions. I know that I did. So to alleviate some of that, at least, I'm presenting here before the video meeting starts. I'm going to discuss a little bit about our business activity, our proprietary accounts, which are the sewer plant and the Reading Country Club, and I have attached in this video the unaudited results for 2018. I think you'll find them very interesting. And then finally, I'd like to bring your attention once again to the behavior of our township supervisors. You will see on several instances where they actually, I believe, in my opinion, start arguing with the citizens who are there to make a comment, find out what's going on. It's nothing negative, really. They're not attacking anyone, but they're just deeply concerned about what's going on in the township. And you will see two supervisors who are not elected. They were appointed to fill a seat, and they are actually aggressively talking down to other citizens in the public section of the meeting. And you will also find our chairman, who was well behaved for most of the meeting, but near the end just couldn't contain himself and started making comments that were not germane to township business. So this seems to be a consistent theme with our chairman. And you can watch it and you can decide on your own how you feel about it. And now I'll let you begin to see my presentation, which is very short, about 5 minutes. And then you'll go right into the start of the meeting for August 12th, 2019. Thank you. This slide shows the business type activities that Exeter Township currently owns, which are the sewer plant and the country club. And focusing on the sewer plant, you will note that the revenues are basically flat. In 2017, we had $7 million in revenue, and in 2018, slightly higher at $7.1 million in revenue. Our operating expenditures, however, increased dramatically from $2.6 million to $3.9 million. And this is primarily due to the fact that the township laid off all of the workers at the plant and hired John Granger's associate, Edward Gillette, and his company EEMA to run the plant. This cost us $1.3 million additionally. Our operating income obviously fell from $4.4 million in 2017 to $3.2 million in 2018. Important thing to look at are the last two numbers. Our income before financing sources. In 2017, when our employees were running the plant, we had income of $4.1 million. When Granger and EEMA took over, it dropped to $2.8 million. And in 2018, without supervisor's permission, $7 million was moved from the sewer plant fund to the general fund. And we know there's no permission because the board never passed a resolution or a motion to move this money. We had a forensic audit of the Reading Country Club, and it was pointed out by those auditors that we did not have a policy to approve transfers between funds. And some policies should have been implemented and followed. But this shows a dramatic issue with the sewer plant. It's very profitable. Why are we selling it? I've been asking that question for some time now. Now let's look at the country club, which has an even more dramatic change. The history of the country club is interesting. Prior to John Granger and Lisa Vanderlane, the club was making close to $3 million a year in revenue. So you can look at the revenue line on this chart. It's dropped significantly from 2017, where it was $900,000, to 2018, only $604,000 in revenue. And 2019 doesn't look even close to $600,000. And then look at the expenses. In 2017, $870,000. In 2018, almost $1.4 million. And the operating income significantly reduced. The country club in 2017, $36,000. In 2018, a loss of $789,000. Most of it due to legal fees, billable hours from Fox and Rothschild, minimal interest income in 2018. And then we look at the income before financing sources. 2017, $38,000. 2018, a loss of almost $800,000. Now you compare this to the operating results in the past, and we had a net income before any financing sources of $250,000. The Reading Country Club was consistently contributing $250,000 to their debt service. And in all fairness, it probably should have been going for operating expenses of the club, but it's been poorly mismanaged almost from its inception, and it's a shame. So hopefully we can improve on that, but you can see the impact that the Vanderlane, Granger, Cortez, and now Mr. Crusadis management abilities have affected the operating results of our business type activities. And I have to tell you, it doesn't have to be this way. We can make these two business type activities very profitable and contribute an enormous amount of money and help our community be a better community. We just have to get the right people in there.
Next, I'd like to recess the August 12th meeting set for our public hearing on the conditional use for Mama's Pizza, 35 West 47th Street. Turn it over to Ms. Ashley.
This will open the conditional use application hearing. This is a duly noticed and advertised hearing for this date, time, and place. The address is 35 West 47th Street. At this time, the applicant can make comments.
Good evening, I'm Eden Bucher of Leisman Teller here on behalf of the applicant. Can everybody hear me now? Yes. Better? Okay. Good evening, I'm Eden Bucher here on behalf of the applicant. We're seeking a conditional use under the zoning ordinance in the neighborhood village overlay to have a pizza shop opened at the property. Called Mr. Bensinger. 35 West 47th Street. That's the name. It's an LLC. And that's the name of it. 35 West 47th Street, LLC. Okay?
It's new, obviously.
It is.
Good evening, I'm Steve Bensinger from Stackhouse Bensinger. We're the civil engineers and surveyors on the project.
Does the board need me to qualify Mr. Bensinger as a zoning expert, or have he's appeared before you before, so I didn't know if you wanted me to go through that?
Just briefly, a few questions.
Okay. Mr. Bensinger, how long have you been an engineer?
I'm actually a surveyor. I've been received my license in 1982, been in the business since 1975.
And approximately how many times have you appeared before municipal boards on the issues of interpretation of zoning ordinance and conditional use applications and matters like we are here this evening?
That's hard to say, but I'd say on average 1 time a week for the last 25 years.
Anybody have any questions?
That's sufficient for me.
Thank you. Mr. Bensinger, are you authorized tonight to speak on behalf of the applicant regarding this conditional use request?
Yes, I am.
And could you briefly describe for everyone what the project entails?
Yes, maybe I could just talk louder. So I'm going back and forth. The project's located at the intersection of West 47th Street and Oak Parkway. There's an existing brick Cape Cod style home there. It is a single family dwelling. As part of this project, they're going to keep that single family dwelling, but they're going to make an addition to the dwelling of 2,400 square feet, approximately 40 feet by 60 feet in dimensions. That will be a pizza shop, a Mama's Pizza Shop. If you're familiar with them, there's quite a few in the county. Their proposal, we're adding a parking lot. The zoning requirement requires 12 parking spaces for this facility. We're proposing 18. We also have 2 parking spaces for the existing dwelling, which again is going to remain here at this time. We have been in front of the Planning Commission. We got a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission for the conditional use. We have also previously submitted preliminary plans, of which we've received reviews from the consulting engineers, and we've made some revisions for their reviews. One of the things we show in here is some landscaping, which is in response to Simone Collins' review letter of the landscaping. And the project will have a trash receptacle or dumpster area in this location. It will have a fence around it, so it'll buffer it. In addition, we're adding quite a few trees around the parking area to buffer the neighbor to the east. And we're also adding street trees and other trees that are required by the township.
Will there be recycling? You said for the trash, but will there be recycling?
Yes, I believe there will be.
Yeah, we'll take public comment at the end of the presentation, just to streamline things.
And Mr. Bensinger, in the course of your work on this project, have you had a chance to review section 390-21.A of the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. project meet all of the requirements for conditional use under that section?
Yes, it does.
And what is the maximum occupancy of the building, of the new part of the building?
As far as tables go, 25 tables, or 25 seats are allowed to be there at tables. There will be approximately 5 employees and 25 seats for people to come in and sit down. Probably a lot of people will be more of a takeout facility than coming in and eating, but there will be 25 seats.
And does the proposed use violate any of the restrictions on the conditional use under the ordinance?
No, it does not.
And has the applicant complied with all of the submissions and procedures that are required for review of a conditional use in the NBO district?
Yes.
You already mentioned that it's been reviewed by the planning commission. And the parking, the lighting and signage criteria, does that meet the requirements under the ordinance?
Yes, it will meet the requirements. We do show some lights here. There will be 2 shoebox-style light standards, one on each side of the parking lot. Plus, there will be a sign out in the front here on West 47th Street that will be lit from lights down below that light up to it, which is an ordinance requirement. But yes, it will meet the township lighting requirements, and it will be reviewed by the township engineer and everybody to make sure that it conforms to it.
Will the project have any adverse effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding neighborhood?
No.
And has consideration been given to the characteristics of the neighborhood when the project was planned?
Yes. One of the reasons we kept the house, so we kept the character of the neighborhood, but I'd also like to say I have a rendering of what the building's going to look like. They will be painting the building. I don't know if people can see it, but originally there was a different color scheme proposed, but my client has changed to this color scheme. It's going to be a gray color. They're going to paint the brick a lighter gray, and the proposed building will be slightly darker gray, and they'll have stone columns at the end or the corners of the building, the new building. So that's a different elevation view, so it's a little hard to see. But.
Are there any other general or specific requirements in the ordinance for conditional use that we haven't discussed?
Discuss landscaping, lighting, parking, I think we did them all.
And in your opinion, has this application for conditional use met all of the requirements under the ordinance?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. We can take public comment now. If anyone has comments.
Where is the drive-through?
Yeah,
Linda.
Can you come up to the podium, please, and state your name and your address?
I thought you mentioned it was going to be a drive-through?
No. There's no drive-through, and a drive-through is not permitted under this zoning district.
Anyone else?
Michelle, name and address.
Michelle Kircher, 1101 Stonehenge Drive. My questions are, will there be outside seating?
At this time, there's none proposed.
Well, if in the future, will outside seating be allowed? Okay. Is there any intentions of having a beer liquor license now or in the future? Okay. Do you have an area for bikes?
We will.
Hours of operations start to
10 o'clock tonight at night, 10 a.m. till 9 at night.
and hours of delivery.
10 o'clock till 9 at night, I believe.
Same. Okay, that's all I have.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? David? Name and address, Dave.
David Hughes, 255 West 47th Street. Now you're coming into my neighborhood. And I can tell you that this street, 47th Street, is turning into a highway. It's high-density traffic. This past week, we've had fire engines, police going up for emergencies over on Gibraltar Road. We should be very concerned about the kids that are going to be coming from the neighborhood going into this establishment. It's so close to the intersection of 422. This is a bad thing to put here. Really bad. It's going to affect the neighbors with lights till 9 o'clock at night when we have to change in daylight hours.
Kind of like all the other restaurants around.
It's my public comment.
Okay,
Yours.
go ahead.
Okay?
Are we done? Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Have a seat.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
One more.
Pat Lasak, 211 Rugby Road. I was wondering, have you contacted anyone regarding the shrubs and type of trees that's going to be in the area? Well, it means a lot. There's magnolia, it's going to be lots of big leaves falling down.
Yes, the landscape plan was reviewed by Simone Collins. We have revised it, further review. He will review it again, so we will have to conform.
Thank you.
Review.
Any other public comments?
Okay, if there is no further public comment, we will close this part of the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Close the public hearing and reopen the August 12, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting. Couple presentations and just a word of note for everybody. The 2018 audit, the actuary report, and the golf report were already on the website on Friday. I know there was a couple people out in the, Tom Walker is here today. No? I had to help him through the website. There is some change on the website where the agenda is and the minutes are, but you can figure it out if you're pretty savvy. If not, send me an email and I'll give you a screen print that I sent to Tom, and he's very happy that everything was on there, the agenda, the minutes, as well as these reports that we're going to review now. You could have read them over the weekend if you so desired. So first up, John, is the 2018 audit.
Ed Furman, from Mealy's here to present the audit.
Put more to the table. It's up to you. Okay.
Thanks for having me. We completed the 2018 audit. We've issued the final financial report. And I just put together a brief overview of the final document that I'll walk you through. The first page, required communications. For a government financial statement, there's really two sets of financials. One's called a government-wide financial statement, and that's the full accrual method of accounting, where you capitalize your fixed assets, that's recorded as liability, works your way down to net equity. The township does not capitalize the fixed assets and the property and the highway costs, so we issued a modified opinion on the government-wide financial statements, and you'll see the effect on that when we come up there. The second set of financial statements are the governmental fund financials, and your main fund there is the general fund, your operating fund. That's how you budget, you keep your books that way, and that we issued a clean, unmodified opinion on those financial statements. We also issued what's a Statement of Auditing Standards 114 report, and whenever we issue an audit report, we're required to also issue this report to the upper level of the client, which would be the board. And we have to identify if we had any problems or issues or material transactions, and we had nothing negative to report there. The 115 report would have been issued if we determined that there was a weakness, a material weakness in internal controls. We tested the internal controls that are operating, so a 115 report wasn't required or issued. The other third page there, I just did a brief overall summary of what the audit entails. We work with your trial balance as a starting point. We reviewed the internal control system. Cash and investments, if there's any cash accounts that go beyond FDIC coverage, we confirm that there's Act 72 collateral on those accounts. The Act 72 requires a bank to pledge federal collateral against a municipal account that's above FDIC coverage. Capital assets, even though you're not capitalizing them, we still vouch anything material and review the depreciation expense. The accounts payable is a search for unrecorded liability, so there's a good cutoff at year end. Debt and most of the revenue numbers, we're able to do third-party confirmation of those balances. And then the bottom section, the expenses and the data extraction, we actually download your general ledger into our audit software. So we're actually taking 100% of your transactions, we're running it through the data extraction software, we're looking for duplicate payments, gaps in checks, material transactions, unusual transactions. So again, the fact that we're touching 100% of the transactions, we think is a more complete audit and looking for anything unusual. And some of the employee testing we do, we're looking for reasonable compensation, and we also look for duplicate addresses in case there's potential fictitious employees. And again, there was no problem with the audit this year. And a summary of the actual financial statements. There you go, okay. The top section is the government-wide, and government financial statement mainly only has 1 year of data, so I put together 3 years of data just so you could see some trend information. And again, the government-wide is the full accrual method of accounting. You'll see in 2018 there was a significant increase in cash, mainly from a transfer from the SOAR fund over to the general fund. And the government-wide does not include the golf course or the SOAR, those are reported later. Receivables were fairly comparable, same with accounts payable. The bonds and notes payable had a small decrease in the outstanding balance. Compensated absences is accrued vacation and sick time. That was pretty comparable. One significant change was with the pension liability. And in 2017, it had become almost 100% funded. The problem was the investments in the pension plan in December. The market had a huge drop in value in December, and the pension plans actually lost about $1.8 million in December, which then triggered the liability going up to $2.3 million. Now, most of that investment value has come back at this point, but the problem was it was just a snapshot in time on December 31st, which caused that. And when you look at the footnotes for the pension plans, even with that drop in investments, the police plan is about 89% funded, and the non-uniform is about 94% funded. And the state's looking for anything above 70% to be safe harbor. So you're well above those numbers. And I expect those to come back to higher numbers once the investments, hopefully the investments hold the rest of the year. The OPEB liability, that's for other post-employment benefits, which is basically medical care that's provided to the employees when they retire. There was a change in accounting method in 2018. Prior to that, that liability could be amortized and it would grow periodically. The new accounting pronouncement required 100% of the liability to be recorded, so that's where you see the jump from 6.5 to 11.7. And I think that'll be the next presentation talking about that. So the net position or net equity is a deficit of about $21 million. However, I think once you capitalize all the property, land, highways, and I believe you've already had an appraisal company in to do that work, that should become a positive number next year and a stronger balance sheet. The revenue and expenses, the real estate taxes were pretty comparable. Transfer taxes, it's tough to project that since it's based on property sales, so that dropped a little bit. The EIT had a good increase along with the business privilege tax. And most of the expenses, I won't go line by line, but they were fairly comparable year to year, except the increase in the debt service. There was a low amount in 2017 because of the refunding that took place. The general fund, I mentioned again that this is a separate set of financial statements, and your general fund balance at the end of 2018 was about $1.2 million, and that's about 11% of your general fund revenues. And safe harbor target for bond rating agencies are anywhere from about 8 to 12%, so you're within that safe harbor number. However, there was a deficit in the general fund of about 1.7 in 2018. The SOAR fund is presented next. Again, the decrease in cash reflected the $7 million transfer to the general fund. Accounts receivables went up slightly. The debt came down slightly. And again, you see the changes in the pension and OPEB liability. And the last page, or the last section, is dealing with the golf course. And the cash balance continues to drop. At the end of 2018, there's about $53,000 in the checking account. The due to the general fund for advances was $640,000. So there's a negative net equity at the end of 2018. And the revenue expenses, the jump in the expenses in 2018 for the golf course related to primarily the legal fees with the different issues going on with that. So that's a quick overall run of the full financials, about 80 or so pages, but hopefully this gives you some feel on the general numbers. Again, the audit itself went well.
Aaron, Vinny, questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, the actuary report.
Can we ask questions with this audit?
No,
We cannot ask questions.
you have a public comment about the audit, that'll be your question.
Chair, this is John Vargo, he's the Township Actuary, who works with Conrad Siegel, is here to present some information with respect to the pension plans and the OPEB.
Yes. Good evening. I'm going to walk through a illustration that I put together, and as the plan's actuary, my primary role is to determine the plan's funded status on an annual basis and also develop the required contribution for each plan. So what I did was I ran the police pension plan liability under various sets of assumptions. And it's important to keep in mind that the benefits don't change under any of the scenarios, just how we're projected to fund for them. So with each set of assumptions, we're trying to fund for the liabilities under the circumstances. The benefits don't change, and the overall cost of the plan, which we don't know what it's going to be, obviously doesn't change. It's just how we're going to fund for those over time. What I want to focus on for the police pension plan is the far left column entitled RP 2000. The RP 2000 distinguishes the other columns because that is the life expectancy table we're using to develop the liabilities of the plan. We're using the RP 2000 on the far left, and for the other three columns, we're using a public sector table that was developed by the Society of Actuaries, which actually looks at the life expectancy of public sector employees throughout the United States. But let's start with the left-hand column. The pension plan has a liability of $20.7 million as of 1/1/19. The actuarial value of assets is 19.44 for a deficit in the plan of 1.273 million. Now it's important to keep in mind that the actuarial value of assets is not the market value of assets, which the accounting numbers are based on. This is a smooth actuarial value, so it actually smooths out some of the fluctuations of the fourth quarter of 2018 that occurred. So it isn't a true market, but we're allowed to use it under state law, and it smooths out the variability that happens in equity markets, like occurred in 2018. Under those assumptions, the liability deficit of plan 1.273 million for a funded ratio of 93.9%. Now, the assumptions that we're using in that column are 8% investment return assumption. Municipalities throughout the state are using anywhere between 6.5% and 7.5%. So the 8% is a little higher than what we're seeing. And the importance of the 8% is that's the value that we're expecting the plan assets to earn year over year. So 8% is a fairly aggressive assumption. If we look at the new life expectancy tables, based on these studies, people are expected to live longer, about 2.5 years for both males and females. If we look at that, the liability increases to $21.7 million, the same value of assets, and we have a deficit of the plan of $2.258 million and a funded ratio of 89%. The next two columns look at lowering that investment return to 7% and then 6%. So basically what we're doing there, we're saying that the fund is going to earn less in investment results year after year, and that needs to be paid for somehow. So that's why your liability increases. At 7%, the liability increases to $24.3 million, same value of assets, so your deficit actually increases to $4.88 million, funded ratio down to 79.9%. The far right column uses a 6% investment return. The liability under those assumptions is $27.5 million, providing you an $8 million deficit and a 70.7% funded ratio. The corresponding, I think it's green on my screen, is the required contribution under each scenario. And you can see the required contribution increases pretty dramatically if you change to the 6% in investment results. Right down below that, I have the market value, the same numbers, but based on the market value of assets of January 1, 2019. And there you can see the deficit under the far left column is $2.79 million. I want to go back. And the far right column is 9.575. But in this case, based on what investments did during the fourth quarter of 2018 and thus far during 2019, the upper value of the unfunded actual accrued liability at the top of the page is probably more indicative of where the plan sits today. The bottom part of the page is the township, the employees' plans, and that plan is a much lower value of the benefit and just overall a much smaller plan. And you can see the same left-hand column, the liability is $1.69 million. The assets are over $2 million. So the plan under that first column, there's actually a surplus in the plan of $333,000. But if you go ahead and lower the interest rate assumption and use the new life expectancy tables at 6%, the liability is $2.262 million, same $2 million of assets for a $235,000 deficit. And you can see the required contribution in the green increases pretty dramatically from $53,000 to $165,000. Any questions on the funded status of the plan under various assumptions?
One of the things that, the reason I asked Mr. Varga here to present this testimony was the impact of changing the actuarial assumptions in the plan and how that affects the annual cost of the township. It said in my report, if the employees are living longer, it's going to cost the plan more in terms of expenses. Even if you don't change it, it's still going to cost it. And if you don't adjust your actuarial assumptions, then at some point in time, the plan is not going to have enough money because the people are living longer. You're not changing the benefits, they're just living a longer lifespan. And I think also imperative that we look at the assumed interest rate, the investment income over a period of time. In the last couple of years, the interest that the plan has realized has been around 6%. So from a conservative point of view, it's important, I think, to look at, changing the actuarial table and then changing the rate of assumption that the interest earnings will yield. Because at some point in time, someone's going to have to pay for this. Now, this goes as part of a discussion that will happen later in the year with respect to the potential use of proceeds from the sale of the wastewater system. I think if you want to seriously consider funding the plan, you will also reduce the township's cost payment to the plan. And if you can reduce that to approaching zero, then you accomplish two things. The plan is fully funded at the most conservative approach, which is the changing the actuarial table and reducing the interest rate to 6%. And the township expenses is reduced from about $250,000 today to approaching zero or zero. So I think it's important if, when the board has a conversation later with respect to the use of the proceeds, having this information available to the board and the public is important in terms of how that conversation goes forward, as will the next conversation with respect to the OPEB conversation.
Yeah, and it's important to note, based on John's comments, is that if the fund returns 6% and people live longer, the cost will develop. Even if you stay in the left-hand column of assumptions, the cost will develop and there'll be much more to pay later. By changing the assumptions to more conservative rates, you're funding for it as the liability develops, or before the liability develops. The cost will be what it will be given the return, and at 6%, the cost will increase at a later time. Okay?
Question, John, does the state contribution change depending on how we fund the plan? I mean, yearly versus the entire?
Well, it could, but the state give you so much up to a cap, and what we would do is we would make sure that the township is above that cap as far as annual costs go. So we have a pretty good idea what that cap would be. So the answer to your question is we would. It will not change because we will set the costs at slightly above. Yeah, we won't be losing any type of state funding. Where the costs are at are well above where that minimum. The minimum for the police plan is about $250,000 of state funding, and for the non-uniform plan it's about $50,000 worth of state funding. So $300,000 in total for those two plans, approximately. Questions?
All right.
Any questions on the pension? My second exhibit is on the post-employment benefits plan. This is governed by GASB number 75, which is a relatively new statement. But basically what GASB 75 requires us to do is calculate the liabilities, project the liabilities into the future of these promises to pay healthcare benefits to retirees. And as you can see, saw in the audit report, the liability comes in at about $11 or $12 million, somewhere in that neighborhood for all these promises to pay. GASB number 75, though, there's a bunch of rules on how you're calculating it. So what I wanted to show today was not necessarily GASB 75, but something a little more easy to think about, and that is the premiums that we project will be paid to retirees. And currently it's a pretty low number. We're looking at the bottom chart there. In 2018, I think it was below $100,000, just to kind of give you a base point. What I did is I projected from 2020 to 2090, somewhere in that neighborhood, and project out the expected premiums. And as you can see, here in the early years, in the 2020s, we're going to see premium payments hover between $200,000 and $400,000, which is still a pretty steep increase over what the township has been paying. But as that seasoned workforce retires, we're going to have a pretty significant jump in those premiums, where in 2030, the township's going to be paying almost $700,000 we're projecting in annual premiums to retirees. And that cost is going to increase to around 2036, where it hits a high point of $900,000. It's going to drop a little bit, but pretty much stay around $700,000 to $800,000 for a 20-year period. So it's important to keep in mind that just because there's not a lot being paid today, there is this promise to pay and this liability sitting out there, and that's how we developed that GASB number 75 number. What I did at the top was to say if an influx of cash was put into a trust for this promise to pay these benefits, and I used $10 million, I actually tracked, based on a 6% investment return, what would happen to the $10 million over the same time period. And as you can see, we can start off with $10 million in 2020. The investment earnings would actually outpace the premium payments for about 10 to 15 years. And the fund would actually hit a high mark of $12 million. And then the premium payments would outpace the fund's earnings, and you'd start to buy down on that fund until it's pretty much evaporated when we get well into the future, when these premiums are starting to go to zero. We're doing this on a closed group, which means we're just taking the group of employees that are currently employed by the township. But some of that, some of this benefit is closed off to certain groups anyway. But it is just the group that's currently on the workforce.
Yeah, you notice, I think it's important to notice two things in these graphs. Both go down to zero. It's primarily for two reasons. One, I harp on occasion about the changes that the township made a number of years ago in the police pension plan. One of the things was we eliminated post-medical retirement benefits for any officer hired after 1/1/17. So the 4 officers we hired a couple years ago, the 4 that we may hire in the near future, they will not get post-medical retirement benefits. Same thing with any administrative employee hired after that date. They are not eligible for post-medical retirement benefits. We're currently negotiating with the Teamsters, and one of the things that we have placed on the negotiating table is to eliminate those benefits from anyone hired after the effective date of that agreement. So what we're trying to do is essentially close off this expense going forward. And I think that's really important given the table on the bottom here with the graph going up, always paying more money because there are more people, even though someone may pass on, there's always another employee who's going to retire. The other thing that I think is important when you look at, if you add up all the columns on the bottom table, that approaches $30 million. So by making an investment, again, one of the reasons we I had Mr. Barlow prepare this data is to illustrate the cost, which I don't think anyone fully recognized, and B, how can you reduce the township's cost to zero? And if you put, again, use the proceeds from the sale of the wastewater, you create a trust, which is the same thing as the pension trust, and invest those proceeds, you're not paying that $32 million. The trust is paying for it by placing $10 million in a trust at the beginning of the year. It's a matter of how you're paying for the benefit. You're going to pay for it, again, one way or the other. If you can pay for it using proceeds from the sale of the treatment plant, you will not have to make those other payments out of the general fund going forward. And it's a reduction of expenses in the general fund.
We're basically saving $20 million by investing that.
That's correct.
And you really get out in front of it. I'm assuming 6% return, but you're getting out in front of the highest premium payments as depicted by the top graph. You're actually going to grow that fund by another $2 million before you really start hitting it with substantial premiums.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, John, mid-year reports. So each department head is going to present a summary of where we're at mid-year.
We'll go through the department summary. You want, excuse me, Lori, you want to come up and review yourself?
Okay, I'll go first and set the precedent of doing this briefly.
90 seconds.
So I'll start with communications. So in July, we launched the new website, as we've all seen numerous times. So we're still working on that, getting it, continuing to update the content and make sure that everything is easy to find. I am working on finalizing the police department microsite as well as Parks and Rec microsite. So we'll have that in the next couple weeks. We're working on content for that right now and finalizing that with the company. And again, continuing to update content on both of those as well. The logo was launched. Still working to slowly implement the changeover to the new logo. Newsletter. Spring summer newsletter edition went out. I am currently working on the fall edition. That'll go out in the next 2 months. And I am continuing to work on expanding and improving communications with the township, both internally and externally. Various platforms, social media. We have Facebook, Instagram. I've put out some surveys in the past, and we'll be putting out some surveys in the future, and looking at other platforms and ways to better reach all of our residents. On the recreation side, continuing to manage all the facilities that we have, and sports fields as well. That's a new venture that I've taken on this year. Summer program, that just ended, so we wrapped all of that up just last week. So that's all done. We had 100% enrollment in summer playground program this year, and we made a lot of changes this year, so that was good. We had about $39,000 in revenue from the summer playground program. I'll have updated numbers on all of that when we get to budget. I'll present all of that in more detail. And I'm continuing to work on expanding programming for the recreation department. I've been meeting with community members and partners, some of whom are here in this room, to try to develop some new programs that I expect to launch for the next budget year. I have also met with, we've had some vandalism issues, as many of us know, down at some of our parks, especially Lorraine Hollow Park. So I met recently in conjunction with the police department with Exeter Crime Watch. Here it is right here. So we are working on a Park Watch organization that they have launched to try to help curb some of the vandalism that we're seeing at the park. So that's something that we'll continue to work on. And as far as events, we had the Easter egg scramble back in April. Hard to believe that that's something that happened so long ago that I'm now reporting on it in this summary. That went really well, and we were able to raise some money for the Exeter Food Pantry and collect some donations. That's something that we'll be continuing to do with our upcoming events as well, to make sure that we're doing something to give back. I also held a Healthy Families and Kids Day down at Lorraine Hollow. That was a new thing that we've never done, so that went really well. We had yoga in the park and a boot camp. We'll be doing boot camp again in the park on August 24th from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. at Lorraine Hollow Park. So it went so well the first time, we're going to do it again. And Fall Fest, scheduled for October 13th, rain date October 19th. Still working on finalizing plans for that, and I will throw a shameless plug in here. If anybody wants to volunteer, please email me.
The only comment I have is the summer program, Lori, is I got great feedback from everybody. It was very professional, all the people that work there. So kudos to you and the team. I've heard nothing but rave reviews from the many people I talked to since I'm so active in the community. So great job to you and your team.
Thank you.
Laura, anything for adults?
Working on it. Do you have any ideas?
Come to the boot camp.
Good evening. My name is Derek Sandritter. I'm the facility operations manager at the Reading, at the Reading Country Club. Going to be talking about our mid-year report. So far, what we've been doing with the golf course. Doing very well at watching our expenses. So we've operated about 16 man-hours less per week on the grounds crew, which is helping our numbers drastically. Our volunteering program has been showing some great positive results, so kudos to you who are volunteering. and the highway staff as well. They've helped us a lot with the labor shortages. So thank you for that, Clarence and crew. We received a new greens mower the last week of June, so we're showing some very positive results, especially now since the greens mower's been going over most of the greens. You know, golfers are loving it. Good pace to it, but still fair. The ball's rolling very properly, so all the golfers are happy about that. 12 hours a week is mostly spent on the maintenance of golf carts. 8 hours a week is spent on the equipment maintenance, meaning the mowers, rough mowers, fairway mowers, etc. And we will be in need of replacements and upgrades for the 2020 season, so we'll be getting quotes when we come budget time about what equipment needs we need to take care of. In terms of the golf course, despite the weather patterns of rain and heat that we had, the course remains in great shape. Mostly these last couple of weeks, we've had some very good weather, so we're able to capitalize. And we'll have greens aerification starting next Monday and Tuesday. So we'll be punching the holes in the greens just to freshen up the course. It's just normal annual maintenance to a golf course. And our rounds are mostly between 15 to 25% up compared to last year when you go month to month. So this year in April we had 2,081 rounds. Last April we only had 1,120. So it was a good April. Another good May, we had 2,677 rounds, and May of 18 we had 2,119. And in June we broke the 3,000 mark. We had 3,029 rounds in June, and in June of 2018 we had 2,616. So the play is up. Things are getting very positive there. 30% of our play that we've tracked is played by Exeter residents. 40% of the play comes from non-residents, and the other 30% of play is comprised of 9-hole residents, 9-hole non-residents, 9-hole leagues, competitive events, and outings. Something that I've noticed is we've been getting very lucky on Saturdays and Sundays because the play has been up significantly. Just this past weekend we had 137 on Saturday and 154 on Sunday. So thank you, weather gods, for being very good on the weekends, because that's what helps, especially the holiday weekends too. So we're enjoying that. And then the league play, we always have a Tuesday night scramble that we're starting to get about 45 to 55 players every Tuesday night at 5:30. So that's some bonus revenue. And we were able to pick up the Carpenter Golf League, and they show up every other Wednesday night. They usually have about 50 players, which brings us just baseline $1 grand in revenue every other Wednesday night. Plus they're purchasing from the Snack Shack and the beverage cart as well. Luckily, they're also going to do their end of the year outing with us, so by booking them, we were able to get some additional revenue. And for the patio grill, Exeter Township took it on in 2019 to manage it, and from April to June, we generated close to 30 grand in revenue, and the golfers are happy with the prices in the menu. So that's my report. Thank you guys very much.
Great job. Great job.
I'm Larry. I'm in charge of the fleet for the township and also the safety coordinator. So with just the police department alone, we enforced the no idling policy, and with that alone, we saved $2,300 in gasoline. That doesn't show all the service that we're also saving, which I'm trying to put that together as we speak. I also am working on the fuel savings for all the township vehicles. And also, on Municipal, we sold 14 pieces of equipment that we sold for $32,000. And what that is all stuff that has been worn out, needed replaced, should have been replaced, and from there. With some of the software we're getting, we can also record on what we are spending on all our vehicles. We can see what's costing us the most. With the heat this summer, though, with that fuel savings, we've been talking about other ways for our canine with Chief, Michelle, and Clarence on what we can do there with our dogs. we are looking at how we can replace some equipment that would save us on fuel, save us on other things, and also get the job done. So that's all I really have for the fence side for this quarter.
You want to answer safety?
Yes. So for the safety that is next, we did 62 hours of employee safety training, which is different things like when we do receive pieces of equipment, everybody gets trained on how to operate it properly. We do different webinars. This Friday, we're doing a first aid training for the guys, for everybody actually. And they will also all be certified. With the grant money that you see there, the $4,600 that we are applying for grant-wise, that's what we received. We did apply for $8,000, which we do believe we're going to get most of that. And out of that $4,000, $2,200 was for safety vests for the police department. And the other stuff is like barricades for the highway and stuff like that. Therefore, it wouldn't be money out of the township. It'll all be reimbursed by the. So, and pretty much that's all I have right there for the safety committee also.
You guys doing like CPR and?
We did CPR, right? We had CPR in the first quarter. This was just the first aid. We're trying to combine it with everybody that we can.
When did we start the safety committee, Larry?
August of last year, so this is actually a year that we had.
Great. So again, it was something that wasn't done that
Yes.
we've implemented that's had
We
great,
did
great
have
results.
one prior, but then that pretty much went to the wayside for some reason.
Excellent.
Yep, and so that's normally something we would just do in the past just for the police department, but the safety committee thought it was important that all staff be able to have that, especially our road crew that are out and about, if they have to be able to assist one of their coworkers on an assignment. So Larry and the team decided it was best to get everybody certified, which we did.
Excellent, thanks. Pat, quick.
A question, did you provide any kind of safety vest for the dogs?
Not for the dogs, no. We do have vests now for the police officers that they wear because they're, as you can see, is black and you can't see them at night. So they do wear the vest at night, and plus during the day. I was at the accident on Sunday and both our officers had the vest on that during the day. So.
How are the dogs protected?
How
are the dogs protected?
So Pat, there's actually different regulations that happen for canine dogs, and that being because of the fact that that's a heavy suit on their back to be wearing for long periods of time. As well, they're regulated for really rifles.
Thank you.
Yep. So they're challenging. It is something that we are reviewing with the chief to see if it's something he wants to do going forward.
Yeah, the safety vest he's talking about, it's just a fluorescent
That's a
vest. It's not like a bulletproof vest, it's just a reflective vest.
The other vest that we did with the safety committee, that $2,200, was the steel plate ones. What were they called? I can't remember the armor steel or something.
For the rifle?
Yes, for the rifle, yes.
Thank you.
So we got that reimbursed through the grant, and that was, it was actually going to be $4,000 that the township would have to pay, and it ended up being only $2,000 the township had to pay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry, great job.
Okay, for the highway department, it's been an interesting second quarter. With all the storms that we've had, obviously we've been, every Monday was always an adventure. Every time we came in here, it seemed like something was washed out. But I will start with the parks, what we've basically done there. We finished a lot of the tree trimming and turf work at most of the parks. We also did some work down at Pineland Park, getting that ready. Did some tree trimming down there. We're going to go back there in the fall and finish that up once we get done with all our regular summer work. Baseball fields were all prepared, and football fields. We completed a lot of repairs at Lorraine Park for the tennis court. We did half of that. The poles were rusted and starting to bend. We replaced 2 of those, and we're going to replace the other 2 hopefully this fall. We also put in a new door down at the Dunbar, and that was bent from wind blowing it open. That was at the lower section. Made 5 hockey boxes for the kids for the playgrounds in the summer. They came out really nice. Some of the guys made those. It turned out really beautiful. We're also working on the hockey rink at Martin Park. As far as road maintenance, street sweeping, we did about a round and a half. Seemed like every time you got so far, we had a flood, and we had to go back and start all over again. So we didn't. He ended up doing a lot of the stuff over and over again. The paving projects went really well. I know out here, if you've obviously seen the one out here at the Moss and Gibraltar. Also, we did a lot of work in the rain. We milled and paved those. They all turned out really nice. They were all milled, paved, and the joints were sealed. As far as mowing goes, we're on our second round, and we're also on the second round for the state, which they only do 2 rounds. We do 3, sometimes 4. Street signs, we just keep up as we can. Somebody knocks one over, we put that up, obviously. Building maintenance, there's been quite a bit of that between the country club. We've done some over at the Dunbar and some at the library. Vehicle maintenance, obviously Larry just went through all that. But we did a lot of welding and that kind of stuff. You want to do MS4? As far as the MS4, we have to clean about 25% of our catch basins every year. We have to look at them. We've done that. We have, like I said before, we have 2,500 catch basins in Exeter Township. We still have quite a few that we need to repair. There's probably 20 out there that need some work, one way or the other. As far as that, and the outflows, we have to check those every year. We've done that, and that's basically pretty much for the MS4. We do have 2 detention ponds we want to try and work on this year. I guess the other one won't be ready for next year. But
Yes, Sutton will probably be done early next year.
Sutton is Sutton Circle detention pond. We're working on a grant for that. That will happen probably next year. But the one on Bowes and the one at the ring, we want to try and get some of that out of the bottom, clean the silt out. And the brush depository, last but not least, right now we have probably about 1,500 square yards of mulch down there, if anybody wants it. Right now we're in pretty good shape with that. So that's it.
Excellent.
Second quarter highlights for the finance department. My team has been working diligently in preparation for the sale of treatment plants. We've been working with PA American on the billing system conversion, so they need to turn over every customer that we have, of course, and meter information, customer information, so we can transfer files back and forth in preparation for that. We're continuing to do that. That'll be up until the date of the conversion. We've also been working to place liens on properties who have delinquent balances in preparation for the sale. Once the sale takes place, we most likely won't be notified when property ownership transfers, so we will not be involved in the gathering the money from a sale of the property. So we need to put liens on people's properties who have significant balances so that when they do a title search, we'll receive our funds that are owed to us. So we're working to get all those liens placed so that we don't miss out on any of that money. Second quarter, of course, is the hot and heavy month, or the hot and heavy quarter for financial preparation for the audit, as you heard. So that takes up a significant amount of time trying to gather all the documents for the auditors. Fixed asset valuation occurred in the second quarter and will be ongoing towards the end of the year. We employed a consultant to come in and do an on-site valuation of the township complex, the wastewater plants, all the parks, the Dunn Center, and the country club. They did walkthroughs of all the facilities, tagged things, and we provided many lists. Thank all the other employees who've been helping me with that. Vehicles, infrastructure, roads, sewage pipes, you name it, we have to value it in some way. So lots of information years from the 90s and 2000s, so they were ready to find another place to live, and we have more significant storage we can get rid of, and things downstairs that should be destroyed, but we're working on it. Small increments.
Excellent, thank you, Jen.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a busy quarter for the police department. Last quarter, our officers responded to 1,655 incident reports, 171 accident reports, wrote 884 citations, issued 43 parking tickets, made 34 DUI arrests, made 38 narcotic arrests, for a total arrest of 152. One of the big issues when I took over here at the police department was a review of the policies and procedures. One of the policies and procedures that DIVIT had identified that needed to be changed or needed to be implemented was a bloodborne pathogen policy. For those of you who aren't familiar with that sort of policy it's a policy that outlines steps for an officer to follow if he experiences a significant exposure to blood or other potential infectious material. So if our guys are out in the field and they come into contact with someone that has a disease, a life-threatening disease, they know what steps to take to ensure that they're taken care of. If a source of the infection does not want to get tested, they'll have a mechanism now in place which they can obtain a court order to make sure that they're okay. So that was a really important policy for us. I'm working on now currently enhancing the evidence policy and enhancing our canine policies as well. I know accreditation, that's one of the things that we'll talk about here in a little more detail later. We'll ensure that our policies are continually updated. So social media, one of the big things that I'm really proud of our officers is we've been using social media to solve crimes. We've been able to solve multiple retail thefts from the big box stores by using our social media platforms. So officers will obtain store surveillance photos and post them to the department's social media platforms. An interesting fact, one suspect saw her photo on our platform and she turned herself in just so we could pull it down. So she was tired of people giving her calls saying, "Hey, I see you, I just love you." So she actually turned herself in so we could pull the picture down. So it's been a real helpful tool for us, and hopefully we'll continue to use that in the future. We're also looking at receiving a quote for MVRs, for that's mobile video recorders for our police officers. MVRs are really important. They act as an unbiased tool to ensure the accountability and integrity of our officers in the field. It works for our officers' benefit as well, because it also can be used to sustain or unfound allegations of officer misconduct, and can also serve as a valuable training tool for officers as well. So that will be placed in next year's budget. So hopefully we can obtain that for officers. We had a really good turnout for our testing process. A few weeks ago, we had our physical test and our written test, which took place over at the high school. They allowed us to use our facilities there. I'm really proud, and I think it goes to show that when other departments are only receiving 25 applicants, 5 applicants for their police departments, we had 100 individuals come out and want to be Exeter Township police officers. So that's definitely a plus for our agency. I think it shows the people in the community understand how valuable the police department is, and to have that sort of turnout was really well. So we got a good representation of the community, and I'm really excited about the process going forward and getting some good applicants for the department. So thank you.
Great job, Chief.
I just have a question. About how many situations do you think happened this year where the MVR would have helped shed some light on the situation or been helpful to the officer or the defendant?
it's almost countlessly in nature. A lot of times, I came from an apartment where we had MVRs for a long time. So if someone calls in a complaint, it's very easy then to go to the MVR footage and see if there's any merit to it or not. A lot of times, if you have that MVR footage, an officer makes an arrest, they'll provide that footage to counsel as part of the discovery process. A lot of times they'll plead out, so it saves them court time as well. Also, it is a fantastic learning tool. So it's a great tool. God forbid there's an officer involved shooting or an incident that we can come back and say, hey, this is what we did right, this is what we did wrong, and we can learn from it as well. So
proactive, not just reactive benefits. Okay. What about the license plate reader? I think you brought that up a couple meetings ago. Is that still something you're interested in?
So we have looked at some different license plate reader companies. It can be a valuable tool. We're still evaluating it, and we'll let you know what we really think.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It'd be part of the budget. Last year we discussed it. It becomes a privacy issue, so we'd have to debate that.
Good evening, Will Ruger. I'm the township zoning officer. So in the engineering department, it's been a busy summer. Obviously building permits and code violations is pretty much all we do. We've had 535 permits issued, and then unfortunately we all have a neighbor which doesn't cut their grass. So we've been out doing grass complaints, stormwater complaints, junk cars, you name it. We try and get out there that week. We also conduct monthly landfill inspections and have ongoing outfall stormwater outfall inspections as well. We were looking into permitting software. We decided on a company. It's actually one of the current providers we have for about $20,000. You'll see that in my budget presentation at the end of the year. A lot of the other companies were about $100,000. So I figured the board would like the 20 rather than the 100.
Of course.
We also have had several meetings to update our GIS systems. We're pretty much at a decision on that. That'll also be presented in the end of the year budget presentation. That's all I have for time.
How many, I don't know if you missed the number, like approximately code violations? I mean, there are a lot every week.
We probably average, I would say, maybe 5 a week, and then having to revisit those as well. Mostly grass, a lot of stormwater ones as well.
I just have one question. You compared the one company with 20,000, the other was 100, or the others. What did they give a reason why they're so much cheaper than the other ones?
Well, Kerrigan Geo is our current provider, and they are willing to update our entire system. They're a local provider. They do a lot of municipalities in Berks County. I think that had a big factor in the decision, in the pricing. I think they have 2 or 3 individuals that they employ. The other ones are, throughout the country.
So they're more familiar with this area in the government industry. Okay, thanks.
Nice job, Will.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been working a lot in the human resources sector to focus on employee wellness and learning. We had an employee lunch and learn that was on nutritional counseling. We did free of charge for our employees. We also started a CSA, a community supported agriculture. We have a local farm who actually comes out and provides fresh produce to our staff at a reduced cost. So it encourages them to eat healthy and to eat local. So we're very excited about that. It's a 13-week program, and we're always excited to see what that week's box has in it. We also hired our new police chief in the second quarter. I know it feels like he's been here much longer. So I'm very proud to have him on our team. We also staff both the highway and the recreation departments for the summer. These are seasonal employees that we add to the staff complement. We actually had 41 people that came back to work for us, so that is about 50% increase in our staff for just the summer months, so it keeps us very busy. We're very excited and very proud to have the summer camp come to a close as well, so it's been a good summer.
Excellent, thank you, Michelle. We're going to change something on the agenda. We're going to do the noise ordinance now, since the gentleman's been patiently waiting for the last 40 minutes back there. So this is on old business number 2. We're going to go to discussion on noise ordinance.
Good evening, thanks for having me. I'm Tom Esty, I'm with the Buckingham Ryan Kumar and Mars Law Firm, and we were engaged to take a look at the noise ordinance and specifically regulating the use of all-terrain vehicles and dirt bikes in the township. What I've done so far is we've crafted an ordinance which would regulate those ATVs and dirt bikes by prohibiting the hours of operation. I'm hoping you have a copy of the draft ordinance. Yes, sir. Okay, good, thanks. Regulating the hours of operation, the minimum lot size where an ATV can be operated, and probably most importantly, the sound level that such a vehicle can emit to be used in the township. I suggested to the township manager that we would have to consult with a sound engineer to see whether the suggested sound levels are achievable, because I'm not certain of that. It's sort of out of my realm of expertise. So that's what I've done so far. I'm also in the process of looking into the noise ordinance as a result of the court decision that said it was vague. Frankly, I think it's a pretty good ordinance compared to similar ordinances in other municipalities. I'm not sure why the judge made that decision, but that's his or her prerogative. So I initially looked at it quickly. I have a couple of comments, but I will be getting additional comments too. So if you're prepared to move ahead with the amendment that would regulate the ATVs, we would have to do some research on the sound levels, and then of course advertise it, and then you can consider it.
So it'd be appropriate for the board to, if you have comments on the ATV ordinance, you want to do it now, you want to wait till we get back with the noise, the sound, the sound levels. Just back to you just one more time.
Yeah, the only question I had was the types of vehicles. Is it just ATV? Is it limited to?
They're
Is that
defined in the
all defined?
ordinance, but an ATV is basically any vehicle that can be used for off-road purposes. Now, there would be certain exemptions as well as for police vehicle that they might have to do that. Basically recreational type vehicles.
So like a go-kart would fall into this definition?
Pardon me?
A go-kart would fall into this definition?
The dirt bike go-karts.
Yeah, it seemed reasonable. I think it was 85 decibels at the property line, 120 decibels, I believe, at the, or this.
Well, max throttle.
96, so, yeah.
What it would require is that the vehicles, I'm sorry, the vehicles would be equipped with mufflers to reduce the sound level to a certain limit, and that would be 96 decibels at the source of the sound. But again, I don't know. I did some research and it seems like that's fairly reasonable. You put mufflers on these vehicles, but again, that's something we have to verify. And then the limit at the property line would be 76 decibels, which is not terribly loud, especially during day.
Probably include some of the cars on the road.
Yeah, it's going to include just regular.
Any other questions from the board?
No, go ahead.
Aaron, go ahead.
So one question, so we say in the ordinance, no ATV or dirt bike shall be operated within 50 feet of any property line. What happens if someone's garage or shed they're storing it in is within the allowable, footage from the property line, but it's less than 50 feet?
The purpose of that is operation of the vehicle. So I suppose if they started it in the garage, that technically would be operational, but we could address that issue. That would permit the storage within. I don't know what your setback limit is in your zoning ordinance, but many times those accessory structures
What is it, Will?
can be close to
Probably 15 foot.
Yeah, the only other one was just, and we might get into it when we talk about the noise ordinance, is why the difference in the time. So this is operation allowed between 8 a.m. or after dusk or 6 p.m., whichever is earlier. But I think our noise ordinance, we're talking about changing from 10 to 11 p.m. So I was just curious why.
Well, those were, frankly, numbers I picked. It seemed to me that this is a use that's different than many other noise-making devices, and you certainly wouldn't want this to be operating after dark, I would think. So, again, that can be adjusted.
We could just keep it consistent with the noise ordinance.
I don't know that you would want these operating at 10 p.m.
Well, my bigger concern is in the winter at 4:30, like, you know, is that too early?
4:30 in the morning?
No.
No, in the evening.
Start again.
So 4:30 it's dark, and I don't have one that falls under this definition, but can I not, so I get home from work, I can't operate it, right? That would be my only concern.
Adjusted for daylight savings, I guess.
I think it's the whichever is earlier prevailing time, I think maybe it's challenging.
It's a 2-acre minimum lot, I believe.
That's what's proposed.
Yeah, 2-acre minimum.
Again, I picked that.
Yeah. Because I can put you into a different zoning district with a setback zone.
How did you ever get the motorcycle club on Beacon Road? And then it goes to Stockport later. I mean, noise is noise no matter where you live. You put up with that at 10 o'clock at night. And with the motorcycles, especially when they have the events down there. How did that occur?
I don't know.
I can't answer that question. I'm not familiar with that.
Is it still, they go beyond 10 o'clock now? I'm asking
I'm sure
you.
they got complaints on it.
Yeah, but
Some weekends, it's unbelievable.
it's not an ATV though, it's,
It's a motorcycle. That's covered. It's covered. Motorcycles are covered.
well, I would assume like an Enduro, or like an off-road. I mean, if you have an Enduro, you can ride it on the street, so that's another question, is it, we're talking about, because like if you're talking about your Harley, but someone's not allowed to ride a motorcycle home now?
They light the lights that run on their motorcycles after 10 o'clock at night. You know it, you get calls.
Any other questions from the board?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, clubs like that, is that grandfathered or does it have to comply with this? Is that part of this? I don't know.
Nothing would be grandfathered by this. It's not like a zoning regulation.
Right.
Just had a question, what happens if someone's plowing their driveway with a four-wheeler at 6, 7 o'clock at night when it snows? What are you supposed to do then?
It doesn't apply to those kinds of.
The work, yeah, it
They're
excludes
using an
work
ATV to
related.
use to plow their driveway with a
Yeah.
plow on it.
It does exclude.
It says snow removal is excluded, landscaping, yard work, agricultural, business operations, reasonable maintenance of a person's private property.
Oh, okay.
That's under the definition of what's an ATV.
Yeah, but I mean, I can see someone with a decent property who in the snow gets home from work and wants to, have a little fun. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world, right? 5 o'clock, it's dark already, but they can't do that.
I guess it depends what shift the neighbor works.
Thank you.
On the street, I see them on the road.
Yes.
Any other comments from the board?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll make some changes based on those comments and submit a revised.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, Paul, pass on that.
These people probably know they're here.
Sorry, just the
The Fall Festival will be held October 12th. Will be a week later.
Public comments on agenda items. Diana, Reeser, fireworks. And a general comment as well. You go to the whole thing.
Diana Reeser, 4134 Lane. Relative to the fireworks ordinance, I had posted something on Nextdoor.
I can't hear you.
I'm sure you're familiar with.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, should I start again?
Yes.
Relative to the fireworks ordinance, I had posted something on Nextdoor, which Mr. Cusadis was quick to respond to.
Always.
It appears he completely missed my point, or perhaps chose not to acknowledge my point. It's quite obvious to anyone who listened to the residents' thoughts and concerns from a past lengthy fireworks display that we do not want lengthy fireworks displays in our townships. There were 3 choices presented to the board, and the first choice of limiting the display to no more than an hour, while still appears excessive, appeared to be the choice most in line with what the residents would like to see occur. Your choice in option 2, which could allow a more lengthy display, has opened a door that we do not and did not want opened. If you do not care about the effect of the lengthy displays have on our animals, then one would hope you would at least have compassion for members of our community who suffer from PTSD. And if you do not, perhaps you need to take the time to talk to some of those people to educate yourself as to the effects this will have on them. I will give you all the benefit of the doubt that perhaps you do not know enough about the impact, and I would hope you agree that we owe our veterans better than that. Again, I respectfully request you close that door and do not allow any fireworks displays longer than an hour, which again is excessive. Most fireworks displays do not last longer than a half hour, which is more than enough time to enjoy the display. If you choose not to amend your choice, there will need to be a better way to notify the community of any impending lengthy display than the township website. As was previously indicated, is where this would be posted. It was also indicated residents would have 5 days to voice a concern. Not everyone checks the website regularly, which would allow that 5-day window to come and go without most people even knowing there is an event pending, thereby not really allowing residents to have a voice and have that voice be heard. I hope that is not by design and a better solution can be formulated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and we are going to talk about that actually. And we're going to make a slight tweak to the fireworks ordinance that I think is a fair compromise. Pat, do you want to give your update on RCC?
Pat Lasak, 211 Rugby Road. Very quick, this is an update on the things we've been doing, the activities we've been doing at the country club. And first of all, I want to say that there were, from the last 2 weeks, we had 6 volunteers and a total of collectively 50 and a half hours of work done for the Reading Country Club. Most of the activities that we did were maintenance. We did lots of weeding, grooming, trimming, and the 1 week the rain stopped us, and the 2nd week we had to do lots of watering because after the rain all of a sudden came out and everything grew, especially lots of weeds. The other thing I wanted to let everyone know is that on July 30th, a few weeks ago, we had requested that the members of the Pennsylvania State University Master Gardeners come out to give us some advice, some suggestions on areas, the projects, and areas that we thought were a little difficult and wanted some expertise advice on how we could tackle the projects. And so 2 of the members of the Master Gardeners came out. It was a really, really productive meeting, and we're waiting for their written report to come to bring us back. And that's it. And one other thing, I have to say that both Derek and Brian have been very, very supportive with us and very cooperative. Especially Brian, we now, we were coordinating with him before, or going to him, but he's very open and positive about talking with us and giving us advice as to the pros and cons of the different projects that we want to do. So thank you very much. Anybody who wants to
Yeah, let's get those
donate.
volunteers.
Yeah, volunteers.
Hunter.
Yep.
Sign that kid. Sign
Hunter's
that
been
kid.
doing.
Sign him up. Good.
He's been coming out. So thank you very much.
Next up, Sherry Green, Store Plant Staff. How's it going? How are you doing, Sherry?
I'm doing just fine.
Very
Thank
good.
you, John. I just would like to, my name is Sherry Green. I live at 1001 Vista Lane. And I would just like to express my concerns once again, as I've done this before, with the sale of our sewer system. I know it's a done deal, but I just would like to make a couple comments. About 2 years ago, our rates went up about 87%, and I think they hadn't been raised for a while, so I think that was somewhat understandable. However, I read in the letter that we received from American Water a couple of months ago, in which we could write to the letter to the PUC expressing our approval or disapproval of the sale, that they will be proposing to raise our rates 1.8% at the next base case, whatever that means. So our rates are going to go up 1.8%. And if I remember correctly, when the deal was being done, upon the finalization of the deal, our rates were going to be raised 28%. Is that still going to happen?
They were already.
They already were, okay.
That was part
Is
of
that
the
what that was? Okay. All right. So I'm concerned about that for people on fixed incomes, for people with low incomes, and also American Water is a for-profit company, and if I remember correctly, all the funds collected, the sewer fees collected, go back into the fund. But with American Water, they're going to have to please their stockholders. So.
Yeah, and just another quick comment. 1999, 2001, and 2005, the rates were actually reduced by the previous boards. So we had a problem. That's one of the reasons why we had to raise them so high a few years ago. So we had to catch up the mess that...
Well, I know that, and because I keep track of my records, and I knew it had been a while. So that I can understand. But I'm just concerned with 1.8%, the 20% that just went up, and then the sky's the limit. They can very easily get approval from the PUC.
Yeah, but keep in mind, too, we have to raise rates, too. If we keep ownership...
Well, of course you have to raise rates.
We have to raise rates, too.
But at
PA
least...
Water has to go to the PUC. We could just raise rates every day if we want to, whereas the
money
PA
goes
Water
back
has
into
to...
the fund.
PA Water has to go through the rate process.
All right.
But no, I respect your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just talk to him. Excuse me.
Linda? Yes, sir. Mr. Hughes, now you can talk about the audit.
Well, the auditor's not here anymore.
Name and address.
So I can't answer my questions. I'll make my comment.
Name and address.
David Hughes, 255 West 47th Street. So what I wanted to ask the auditor, who isn't here any longer, about the test that he conducted on the internal controls. Okay. Internal controls, there's really 5 internal controls. These are kind of things that, unless you're an accountant, you kind of don't understand what's going on maybe. But one of them that I'm concerned about is called the control environment. It's very important. It's one that the audit is designed based on the control environment. And the control environment usually specifically has to do with integrity and ethics. And what I wanted to ask the auditor was if he was informed that Mr. Granger misappropriated almost $2 million from a former township that he worked at, because this is a serious problem with internal control when dealing with ethics and integrity. Not only has he done that, we just found out, what, a couple weeks ago, that he had a secret corporation that he claims he didn't know anything about. And before that, he was providing false and misleading financial information related to the golf course. We know that. Greg Galtieri was in here at the last meeting pointing that out. So unfortunately, I can't ask the auditor if he knew about it and if he took it into consideration when he planned his audit. And then one last thing, Mr. Biancone made a motion to accept the July 8th meeting minutes with the correction that Steve Babylon's last name was spelled correctly. It's posted on the website, still not spelled correctly. So I'm wondering if we can correct that oversight again.
Sure, thank you.
And then,
You're done with the audit? Are you done with the audit?
yeah, but you left the other people talking about items that weren't on the agenda.
Okay.
I mean,
You came
I
up
got
talking,
video to prove it.
you came up to talk about the audit. Are you done talking about the audit? Because you do another public comment called general comment.
I'm done with the,
You're done with the audit. Okay, now you're going to talk your general comment.
yeah, like,
We can do that
if you'll let me do it, I'll do it.
You want to do it now? Sure.
Okay. So, the other two things that I wanted to talk about, first of all, I'd like to find out what the cost of creating this new, as you made the comment, futuristic website, which your comment, I'd like to find out how much that costs. Will I have to do a right-to-know request and wait 35 days for that? And finally, with the Sunshine Act, I think it was May 6th, you did a mea culpa at a special meeting where you said that you violated the Sunshine Act.
Yep. Through the interviews.
The attorney took care of it, so you didn't get in any trouble, no one got in any trouble. But you said at that time that you were going to take classes.
Yes.
And I'd like to know if those
Those classes did not occur. We're working on a schedule to get those scheduled, actually.
It's been 3 months.
Yeah, we're busy guys. We have jobs. All of us have jobs except for Dave.
So no one's taking the Sunshine Act classes yet?
We're going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other classes that any of the supervisors have taken?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
So do they pay it for themselves, or does the township pay for it?
Pays for what?
For their classes that
No,
they take?
we don't pay for those classes. The people don't pay for those. The township doesn't pay for the classes.
So you're going to pay for your own Sunshine Act class, not the township?
The Sunshine Act will be through the attorneys. That'll be paid for by the township, yes. It's
But
1 hour.
There are other
It's 1
classes
hour.
that are always recommended for
Yeah, we don't-
supervisors.
we don't-
They're not going to
Yeah, heck
take
no.
them or pay for them.
Nope.
Is it? Well, let me ask you, how many of you have taken other classes since you've been a supervisor here at Exeter Township? Has anyone taken any classes? I don't see any hands.
There you go.
Thank you.
Just answered your own question. You want to talk about sewer bill?
Hi, I'm Leroy Reiner. I live at 85 Thayer Road. I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. I serve this country. I don't mind paying for the water, what I use. In the summertime, I use a lot of water outside to water the yard, the vegetables, wash cars, and so on and so on. My question is, now that American Water is going to take over the sewer system, is the township going to be responsible to pay for the water, the sewer, for Clarence? You pressure wash your equipment? Do you pressure wash your equipment outside?
Yes.
Water that goes in the ground? Are you paying a sewer for that? How about the country club? Are we paying for water in the green grass that goes into the grass? Are we going to pay a sewer on that? I have a solution. If American Water has a meter in my house for the amount of water that comes in the house, and let's say I use 100 gallons, and I have them put a meter on my outside spigot, and I use 10 gallons for outside that goes in the ground. That means I only use 90% of that water to go back in the sewer. I don't mind paying for something that I use. What irritates me is I'm on a fixed income. I don't want to pay for something that I'm not getting. Anybody have any thoughts? Can we get American Water to put meters on some of these homes that request it?
We could
I
ask
mean, even the township.
We could ask them.
Because you guys, we're going to, as taxpayers, I'm going to end up paying for your sewer. Why can't we get a meter put on like Country Club instead of paying for that water going in the grass instead of paying going in the sewer?
All the water that is used to irrigate the country club comes from the stream. That's, it's not metered.
That's a good one. But still, I'm sure you're pressure washing tractors and dump trucks and everything else.
John, I mean, we can ask PA American Water, but I think in the calculation for your minimal usage, there is some factor.
There's a factor
per gallon. There is a factor built in for usage of what goes down the sewer, I believe.
There is a factor in in most wastewater treatment rates. It's not based on 100% usage that's read through the meter. It's based on some percentage of that because of the factors that this gentleman is bringing up. So you're not billed, you don't pay 100% of your rate, even though the rate is what's shown on the bill, because there is some, everyone recognizes the fact that not all water goes into the wastewater system.
We could probably find out what that is. 10%.
Thank you, Leroy. Good comments. Okay, regular approval of minutes, July 22nd, 2019. Motion.
July 22nd minutes.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, disbursements.
Make a motion to approve the disbursements.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll keep going. Old business. We talked about the noise ordinance, which we did first. Discussion on Norfolk Southern.
I'm going to provide a quick update on the Neversink Road Bridge construction. So our office has been involved in multiple conference calls that have coordinated the PUC, the township, Norfolk Southern, and as well as the DEP with regard to stressing how important this is, how time sensitive it is, and how we can move this forward on an expedited basis. It seems that some of the tie-up has been on the DEP's end in terms of processing something that was submitted quite some time ago by Norfolk Southern. The PUC has really been advocating strongly for the township in order to stress how important it is to be moving this forward. Last week, they advised that they were requiring some additional submissions. Fox Rothschild has gone back and asked if they can revise some of the requirements that they were supposed to impose in order to keep the ball rolling on an expedited basis. And we expect to hear feedback on that hopefully within the next week or so. So that's the update now, but the township's definitely been very engaged, and we seem to really have the support of the PUC, which hopefully will be instrumental in moving this forward as soon as possible.
I know it's been long and painful. Mr. Winters, I know you live in that area.
Well, I had a letter from 2017 from Mr. Granger that said the Norfolk Southern was ready to cooperate with us about opening up that tunnel. So what happened to that cooperation?
The issue is not with Norfolk Southern.
Okay.
The issue is with DEP.
DEP is what? Is the environmental
Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
And what are they complaining about?
DEP?
Yes.
I can give a little bit of a summary. I'll give a little bit of a summary. There's been I'll say discrepancy with opinions between the Norfolk Southern and DEP of which federal regulations that Norfolk Southern has to abide by. DEP feels strongly that federal law takes precedent, that they need to get permits. One of the issues is when Norfolk Southern submitted the permit, it was not the correct permit in accordance with DEP's office. They require a joint permit because they feel as though an obstruction has been made within the Trout Run stream, which the Trout Run in turn is a detailed study area, which means there's flood elevations established per the insurance rate map as well as a floodways established. So there's been I'll say a disconnect between the two entities trying to resolve this permit issue. The solicitor's office asked me to contact DEP. I contacted one of the head officials to try to expedite the whole process and see if we could streamline some of this permitting process, treating it as either a small project or looking at it as a low impact or do an assessment of the of the area. And as Alicia said a little bit earlier, that's where we're at right now. We're trying to get everybody on the same page and see what we can do to expedite this permitting process. DEP has agreed to, they will do whatever's necessary. However, the joint permit is a much more detailed study type of permit and modeling versus what we call a general permit, which is basically a permit to replace an existing structure. So we seem to be progressing, and unfortunately at a slow rate, but it has been moving, and the PUC has been very instrumental. They have been involved. Some of their chief counsel has sent emails to the PUC, to DEP, and so forth, that had this meeting, or got this meeting initiated, which was a conference call. I feel like we're at least taking the next step, and hopefully by the end of this week or early next week, we'll have more information and a better timeline to when these permits can be secured and construction can take place for the bridge.
Yeah, we view it as a positive development, just because we know how time sensitive it is and how much pressure we've been trying to put to move this forward. So with the PUC support, we're hoping that this is going to continue to move forward on an expedited basis.
I appreciate that, but you know, we just had another accident on West Nursing Road.
Yeah.
Took down a pole. There was a light on that pole that illuminates that bad curve. Is it the township's responsibility to put its light back up? Like, the residents around me want to know if there's going to be a light put back on the pole. Because it's a dangerous curve. It doesn't have a light on it.
That's Med-Ed's responsibility. We'll call them tomorrow.
All right, appreciate it.
You know, Mr. Winters, I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but there is progress, so
All right,
I know it's
well,
been a mess and a disaster.
You know,
but
when you
we're-
got those trash trucks coming up
we're
there at
working
3 o'clock
hard
in the
to-
morning, it's kind of bad.
The priority's there, and we're working hard to get it done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. Noise ordinance, we did. Discussion on solar panel ordinance. Will?
Oh, will you guys be contacting Megan about the light?
Yeah, you're going to contact.
Thanks.
We'll contact Brian.
Appreciate it.
What's your address, Brian? Just so we have.
520 West Neversink Road.
So based on the last discussion we had before the board, there was the suggestion of installing a disconnect box on the outside of residential structures. The staff have looked into that and agree with that suggestion. We put together language for that addition in the fire safety subsection. If the board wishes, we will send it before the county and the Township Planning Commission.
Yeah, you know, you're the expert on this. Did you?
No, I think
Any
it's
other questions that works?
No, that's what I was looking for.
And we appreciate that comment, and our building code official agreed with that as well.
Sure.
So, I guess if the consensus is supportable, I make that change, and because it's a change to the zoning ordinance, because this affects issues in zoning districts, it has to go back to each planning commission to review. So it'll take maybe 30 days for that review process, and the whole ordinance will go back to the board again. Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Okay, absolutely. Next up, monthly golf report.
Thank you. Derek did an excellent job on the monthly golf report. Anyone has any questions on it? The golf operations is in the positive again. Revenues are up, expenses are down. Things are looking reasonably well at this point in time. Anybody have any other questions want to answer?
How about you, Dave? Have you seen them? I mean, because you're close by there, so you definitely said you saw more activity.
Yeah, when you have 150, 160, 70 a day, you see it going by all day.
Yeah, you can golf balls? No.
I lost it in the Granger grass.
It's been a lot busier at night too, like the dusk crowd. And you'll wait on the weekends sometimes, which is a good thing. So then they've been getting golfers there at all times.
Yeah, I walked around with Derek the one day, and you know, seeing like the high like a fescue type. But I mean, I think it adds a good element to it.
Yes, I mean, year to date, we're doing very well. In the last couple of months, the food and beverage, the driving range, and they're all positive. They're all up over year on year plus prior months. So May, June, July, it's all been increases. I think the food and beverage has been going quite well. I've seen a lot of people at the patio grill, so.
Good job, everybody. And make sure Derek gets the recognition he deserves. Authorization for second amendment to asset purchase agreement with PA American Water.
Mr. Chairman, this would be an amendment to the asset purchase agreement to reflect the agreement with PA American and PUC with respect to the price. The board will recall that the solicitor report was, I think, at the last meeting, where the PUC would permit PA American to recover or charge $92 million through the rate structure as opposed to the 96 that was purchased. And PA American would pay Exeter $93.5 million. So this would require an amendment to that agreement to reflect those numbers.
I'll make that motion to authorize second amendment to asset purchase agreement with PA American Water.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, John, ratify amendment to agreement to purchase Promenade Shopping Center.
This proposed amendment will extend the environmental phase to the environmental assessment report to be completed until the end of September. They've completed the work now. The report, the original document had the phase 2 to be completed, I think, by the first week in August. They've encountered some things that need to do some more testing. They're waiting for the test results to come back now. It should be later this week, and the report will be done by the end of this month. So this amendment affects that change only.
You need a motion?
Yes, please.
No, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next on new business, adopt ordinance further establishing fireworks regulations. Vinny, there was a change that you put in for the first 3 hour.
Well, I was talking to, there was a thing with, if it goes over an hour, then 5 days to complain, and then also, it was going back to the fire marshal, which doesn't make much sense since he's the one who's approving it in the first place, just to make sure it's safe. So I think if there's any complaints and stuff, and I don't feel it should be felt all upon him to make a change against himself. I said that it should come up to the board, and then we would make the determination whether it's going to happen or not.
When you say happen, you mean more than an hour, or just happen at all?
If it's going to happen more than an hour, well, if there's someone's looking to put in for more than an hour, then the board would have to make it.
It's 1 hour.
Instead of going to,
if there is a case where there has to be more than 1 hour, it goes to the board for approval rather than the fire marshal.
well, yeah, because he's only, his job is to make sure it's legal.
Right.
So if they're only using consumer fireworks and this and that.
It would vet it in the public a lot more. I mean, there's probably a few cases, but I mean, there could be remote areas of this township where, there's a 500-acre parcel and it's going on for 2 hours.
Okay.
Don't know. But at least, the board and the community would see any discussion if there was a possibility of that.
So this is where the outlet, you guys come to us as, we're your voice. And I know my wife said she's going to write a nasty letter to me if it's going to go beyond 1 hour. So that's an example where that's a true statement. By
You mail it or just give it to them?
Oh, I'll mail it, it'll be emailed.
So I think it makes it.
Does the 14-day window then still apply because the board doesn't meet every 14 days?
Yeah, we could.
We have to do like an executive session.
But it has to be done in public.
Has to be done in public. We have to have a special meeting.
So my only question for you then is, because it's consumer, it's not displays, I want to be clear, it's not necessarily displays, it's being able to shoot consumer fireworks, which is different than a display. And we can't permit that, so is it, like, making it a public hearing almost, is that too close, is it legally separated enough from permitting?
Yeah, I don't think it's, and just to kind of give an overview, because I know we've kind of gone back and forth on this for a while. Originally, as drafted, there were no durational limitations for consumer fireworks, which, as was mentioned, is different from display. Display fireworks are the big professional fireworks. Consumers are the ones that everyday people can use. And again, just to reiterate this, I know we've discussed it before, the township is not allowed to prohibit the use of consumer fireworks because it would conflict with state law, and we can't do that. So kind of a middle ground, we are allowed though to put certain reasonable restrictions on the use of consumer fireworks. So the way that the ordinance is being revised is it limits durational limit to an hour. However, if someone were to propose to use it for more than an hour, it would require advanced written notification 14 days in advance to the neighbors and also to the township through the fire marshal, and posted on the township's website, and people would then have a chance to give feedback. Now, I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think that it's crossing any line in terms of being too close to permitting. It's not like we're charging fees for these types of things, but
How wide of a radius would be considered neighbors that the letters would need to be mailed to?
we just, we defined it as adjoining. So you're adjoining neighbors.
Would that need to be certified or just randomly like mailed or?
We required advance written notice. I mean, presumably someone would need to prove that they actually sent it out. Could someone say they didn't get notice? Sure, you know, it's hard to do these types of ordinances in a way that's watertight.
We gotta go back and add that language
And just so I'm clear,
about the board versus fire marshal.
so should the fire marshal still get notice?
Oh, yeah, no, he's got to make sure that it's
legally safe, all that
Like I said, his job is to make sure it's legal.
But, and not just legal, right? There's no drought conditions or something else that
Well,
would.
that falls in his realm, right?
Right.
Ours is more so, you know, because the biggest thing I saw, I did go back and actually look at some of the things with the extra form, and we said about it was the most commented, and the majority of them, a lot of people are like, 5 hours is too long, which it wasn't 5 hours anyway, but the majority I felt were that they just weren't notified. They wanted to know, and that's the biggest thing. People just wanted to know that it was going to happen. Like that I think was the biggest thing. So I feel if anything happened over an hour, then they have
I think it's two things. It's the notification and then the process, if it's going to go over an hour, which of course would have to go through the board versus the fire marshal.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, you know, I would probably say 90% of the issues are the ones that are illegally done because people are shooting on their sidewalks or their driveways or their neighborhoods. It's too close to any.
I know Senator Schwank is looking into redoing this whole thing at the state level, so I know there could be some changes there down the road, but that's something that, you know, if we're going to wait for them, that's who has to wait for grass to grow. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, so we went from,
We went from nothing.
fireworks.
Keep in mind.
Pardon?
We went from nothing with no, with
Okay,
Wild
we went
Wild
from
West.
fireworks displays to consumer, or, you know, private things. We went from displays to everyday type fireworks. You know, we started out this conversation on 3-hour displays with Ms. Cracker Jack,
That's all consumer fireworks.
consumer fireworks. So we went from displays to consumer fireworks.
I don't think we were using the big capital D display. We were talking generically about a fireworks display.
And
The
what do
statute.
you think people think about when they think about firework displays? It's not yard works. They think of fireworks displays. Big things, commercial. They don't think of, you know, yard works. They think of displays. So that's why the community was so up in arms about it. I don't even know if they're going to be too happy about consumer type fireworks going off for 3 hours. You know, it's a loophole. It's another, it went from displays to what you're calling it now.
Well, displays already have to be regulated and permitted, that's the difference. So
Yeah, like
displays have to be
Maydays.
permitted.
Maydays was an example.
Right.
Maydays.
How long did that go?
This whole time.
15 minutes.
So this
That's
whole
right,
time,
15
we have been talking about, the ordinance has been around consumer fireworks.
Yeah, but
Somewhere on social media, someone took that to be displays,
That's
which
because
legally
that was
is
not-
different.
That was displays. We were led to believe it was firework displays at the gun club. And
It
hundreds
was
of people were gonna come.
It was commercial.
fireworks.
It was
Yeah,
commercial
That's what
fireworks.
we're discussing, trying to limit.
Yeah, right. We don't want nobody wants commercial fireworks.
The state.
The state, you gotta go to the state. Oh, yeah, fireworks. Well, that'll happen, right? They set off.
The school did catch up, the school did catch fire in Reading, actually.
And what I worry about too is that's the kind of
Go ahead.
we were talking about how the police department were going to benefit from this, and the fire department.
The state law says that.
Okay, that's a different issue. That wasn't in the initial conversation.
I disagree.
Okay, no, it was. You were saying how, when you were interviewed, how the police department benefit from these huge displays.
You are incorrect.
Hundreds of
I
people
never
were going
mentioned
to-
fireworks during my interview, and during the initial discussion, we
She's right.
talked about how the state law, we can pull up the state law if you'd like. The state law on fireworks says that proceeds of commercial fireworks go to local municipality, police, fire, and EMS.
You brought that up.
Right, that the state, they
That's all
charge
I
an
have ever
additional
said.
12%. So if you buy a consumer fireworks, they
I
actually charge you like
understand.
18%.
But I was under the impression, and always led under the impression, it was a fireworks display.
Are you clear now, Linda?
Yeah, but it wasn't for the last, I don't know how many meetings.
Okay, fair enough. So we're gonna make this change,
Yes. Clear on that?
and then bring it.
Like I said, I don't think it should fall on
Oh, no, you're right.
fire marshal.
Excellent, so we're good, we have consensus on that. Next up, adopt ordinance establishing no parking at intersection of West 33rd Street and West Neversink Road.
Mr. Chair, the board has for it the ordinance which would establish no parking at the subject location we discussed at the prior meeting, be appropriate for the board to consider the ordinance.
Wait, a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
And this is for the fire truck to go around and everything.
Yeah, we talked about a couple meetings ago. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next up, adopt ordinance establishing panhandling regulations.
I'll make a motion to adopt the
I'll second.
ordinance.
Any further discussion?
The chief, you checked over that?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next up, consider contract with Law Enforcement Accreditation Services LLC in the amount of $27,500 to assist with the process to have the police department re-obtain accreditation. Chief, did you want to give an update on this? Or why we need it, what are the benefits?
Absolutely. One most important thing I think for our police department here is to be accredited. At one time, the agency was accredited here by the Pennsylvania Chiefs Police Association. I seek to get that accreditation standard back for our police department. Accreditation ensures adherence to the highest standards in the law enforcement profession. The accreditation process provides an opportunity for the department to provide consistent delivery of high-quality public safety services. The department has received a quote from the vendor to have the department accredited for the amount that was listed. It would approximately take between 16 to 18 months to achieve accreditation once it started. Previously, the department was accredited the way it was done before. Officers were removed from their police duties and to work on the accreditation process. I believe it's a cost saving for the township to use an outside vendor. If you consider salary and benefits for the officers and the time it took to achieve accreditation last time, the financial impact would easily be 6 to 7 times greater than using an accreditation service.
Make the motion.
Wait, if I could interrupt for just a second. Yeah, our office has looked at the proposed agreement, and I've been working with Chief, which has been very helpful, to add some additional terms to ensure, first, confidentiality needs to be contractually required, but also to ensure compliance with this state act called CREA, which stands for Criminal History Record Information Act. So it would be our recommendation that the motion specifically be subject to solicitor negotiations so we can finalize those terms.
I amend my motion to that.
I think it's very important to get the accreditation back. Be a very good police department.
Yeah, I think the investment, it's worth the investment, absolutely. Scott, we have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next, approved memorandum of understanding with the Exeter School District for conformance with the Pennsylvania Safe Schools Act. Chief?
Every year, as a requirement of the Safe Schools Act of 1995, it mandates annual reporting of incidents of violence, weapons, alcohol, drugs, and tobacco possession to the Department of Education. Local education agencies are required to develop a memorandum of understanding with local law enforcement agencies and provide for other procedural safeguards to enhance school safety. So what the MOU is, it outlines our response as a police agency, our responsibilities for acts that happen on school property and school conveyances, and it also outlines what the school district's responsibilities are for us as well. So we can, again, make sure that we're responding to these acts of violence and crimes that occur on school property appropriately. It's the exact same, basically it's the exact same MOU that was signed off last year.
I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Exeter School District.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Next up, ratify agreement with All Restore in the amount of $19,467.76 for restoration work at the RCC.
Mr. Chairman, this is for work in connection with the issue of Township encountered at the Four Seasons Room. The vendor, we received 3 proposals. This was the lowest that we received. We have had very positive interaction with this vendor before on the identical matter. He started his work. He's about 80-ish% done. They removed the drywall. They have been cleaning the interior of the room, and they're in the process of cleaning and outsourced cleaning the ductwork in the room to make sure that the contaminant doesn't go through the rest of the building. So I recommend that the board ratify this agreement with All Restore.
And there's insurance possibility.
Yeah, this will most likely be reimbursed through insurance.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
Yep.
Next up, authorize Landis Mechanical Group to replace 5-ton air conditioning unit with gas furnace to service the children's wing at the library at a cost of $12,645.15.
Yeah, we've had this issue, there's been an ongoing issue with some of the air conditioning units, the HVAC units at the library. The library units themselves have been a problem for quite a few years. This is something we were going to put on for next year's budget. However, since this one is gone, the air conditioning segment of this HVAC system is shot. The heating system was going to be replaced also next year. So rather than just doing partially and then having to restart all over again next year, we ask that you approve the $12,645.15. That would just take this off of next year's budget because we still have, I think there's 6 other units over there that'll still have to be replaced next year in the budget. So this is just doing it now instead of later. We have no choice about over half of that price anyway. But
I'll make the motion.
just a cleaner job.
I'll second. Any further discussion?
Is this a larger unit replacing the smaller one or the same size?
No, it's 5-ton.
Okay.
It's the entire children's wing, which is that piece that sticks out the back.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, approved business privilege tax settlement.
Mr. Chairman, we have a proposed settlement agreement with a business in the township to settle the firm's business privilege tax liability to the township. The agreement calls for the company to pay the full tax, the penalty, and part of the interest. Because it is less than the full amount due, we would have, there's an agreement been prepared by special counsel, and the board would need to approve the tax. The company has agreed to it.
Of course, we can't say the name to
Yeah,
protect
due to confidentiality, the taxpayer's identity and details can't be disclosed.
Make a motion to approve the tax settlement.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, authorize proper officers to execute the necessary documents for the installation of fire hydrant for the Yuki Morgan development.
Mr. Chairman, this is a standard agreement the township has for the installation of a fire hydrant at the location. The applicant pays all the fees. We are the pass-through here. We have to make the application because of the way the PMR works. But Yuki Morgan will reimburse the township for this cost. And we have to submit an application. So this is the documents that we have to submit for the installation.
They were required as part of the development process to install fire hydrant for fire protection. This is just a formality at P American, since we already have other fire hydrants that we pay a fee for. As it was said, it's just a pass-through cost. Developer will bear all the costs and expenses.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Last item on new business, authorize installation of compatible traffic signal controllers at the intersection of 36th and 37th Street and Perkiomen at a cost of $12,940.20.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can't believe I'm coming to the board for this. When this project was brought to the township a while ago, we provided PennDOT with the controllers that we use on all of our intersections. It's important because the closed loop system, the controller must need to speak with other controllers so everybody knows what's going on. I don't know whether the PennDOT didn't get that information or the contractor bid on a different controller. These controllers don't talk to anybody. So you could have two signals up there and we will install a third later that don't communicate with anyone along the system. We would very much like to have all the controllers talk to everyone so that when they can manage the traffic going through the system, they can talk to one another, and they can make adjustments based on the volume of traffic. And the contractor has submitted this price, has been reviewed by the township's traffic engineer, and the price is acceptable. I just can't believe I'm talking about this.
I think it's important.
They PennDOT, when they bid the project, they bid on the right controller, on a standard, and actually one of our vendors who works on our other signals discovered it. We brought it to their attention several times because it wasn't, as John said, it wasn't going to be compatible with the closed loop system. These two signals are worked on a radio transmission, so they still speak to the other signals in the closed loop system. So unfortunately, we're paying for the upgrade for the better controller. We tried.
That's right by the school, right?
Yep. Yes.
To the port intersection.
36.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Department reports. Do you need to update anything else?
No, the only thing I would add is Lorraine Road, we're replacing a large pipe over the next probably 3 days. It's 44 by 65, and it's an oval-shaped pipe, 40-foot section. So Lorraine Road will be closed probably 3 days, maybe 4. You can get in from one end all the way to where we're working, but it is closed, so other than that, that's it. That's all I got.
Do you want to add anything?
Just a real quick item. computer has been infected with the virus, and instructing you to remote in, so they can remote in and examine your computer. Please, don't fall for it. What they're doing is they're calling you up and they're saying, hey, your computer's been infected with the virus. Here is the process that we need to remote into your system. They'll get into your system and then they'll hijack your computer system. And then they'll demand money from you to fix the issue that's going wrong with your computer system. So if you receive a call from that and you have any questions, give us a call to the police department, or if you think there might be something wrong with the computer, take it to an unauthorized repair shop.
They can also go right into your computer and give you, when you turn it on, I've had that already. The phone calls have been going on for years, so they're getting pretty clever now. They're going right into your computer. When you log in, that's the message that comes out.
And if you're getting that, I would advise you to take your, if you're having that continued problem, I would advise you to take your computer. There could be a virus infected on it, so take it to a repair shop, have them examine it, and get rid of that.
I just go in and close out their message.
Yeah, but please be aware that there's probably some sort of program running like
There could be some malware.
Yeah, your computer that's doing that. So I would advise you to take it to a computer shop and have it cleaned.
I've been doing that. I've been doing that since 1982.
You think you've had this problem?
Thank you, Chief. Rogowski, engineer report.
I really don't have anything else to add, except we'll be attending the progress meeting on Perkiomen Avenue tomorrow. It's a bi-weekly meeting, and Clarence and I usually attend.
Yeah, can we get an update on the website, just for the public?
Yes, so there are any issues and so forth, we'll bring about. That's all I have.
The only thing I have to add is that the township received at the end of last week the ALJ, which is Administrative Law Judge, decision with regard to the wastewater treatment plant sale. It was a great decision recommending that the PUC, which again is the Public Utility Commission, approve the proposed sale as presented for resolution without further modifications. So that's obviously a great news from the ALJ.
Excellent, another step closer. Manager report. Nothing. Public comment, we have 3 left. Diana, do you want to talk about your other general comment?
I can. The mic is right this time. First of all, I would like to applaud anyone willing to run for office to serve on the Board of Supervisors. I do realize it's a huge time commitment, and I cannot and can't be an easy task to fit into everyone's already busy world. In addition, I would like to thank Mr. Hughes for taking and posting the meetings to allow any concerned resident to obtain a true picture of what takes place during the meetings. As we all know, the meeting minutes are not all-inclusive and most definitely are unable to communicate the tone being used by the Board of Supervisor chairperson when speaking to residents who may be raising some tough questions and have concerns.
I saw you were playing on
That
the
said,
computer.
I have been watching the videos posted of the meetings by Mr. Hughes for quite some time, and what I have been seeing has been quite disturbing. As members of the board, I feel it is important to remember who you were elected to represent. That would be all, or at a minimum, the majority of the residents of the township, not Mr. Granger, and never the interest of any particular board member. We, as the residents who were elected to serve, should be able to question your actions. It raises red flags when inquiries are met with hostility. If you are confident in your decisions on township issues and truly believe you are doing right by the residents, there should never be any hostility toward any resident. Perhaps you need to remember that inquiries show people are interested in what goes on and are concerned about how their money is being utilized in the township. Let us remember that Mr. Granger does not live in the township. Therefore, any monetary implications to the residents of Exeter, such as higher taxes, higher water bills, higher sewer rates, and so forth, are not impacting him in any way, but they are directly impacting all the residents, and we would hope that we could trust you all to remember that and have our best interest in mind. I know that up to this year, when I have begun to watch the videos, I was under the impression, as many residents most likely are, that we can trust what is going on will always be in our best interest. But it saddens me to say that I was a bit naive, and I realize now it is so very important to get involved and watch what is going on within my township. I've grown up in the township and moved back here to raise my family about 20 years ago. And I've always thought it was a wonderful place to live. Unfortunately, many recent developments are beginning to change my mind, and I'm hoping things start to turn around. The tone used when speaking to certain residents when they bring up the tough topics is completely unacceptable. If I spoke to people like that at my workplace, at a minimum, I would be written up and potentially fired if it continued. You do not foster a sense of confidence when you are antagonistic, quite the opposite. It makes people wonder what you are trying to hide. Everyone should be treated with respect, not just those people you agree with. Quite honestly, I have not seen any disrespect from any residents, but unfortunately, I have seen a lot of disrespect from the board chairperson when a resident either challenges what is going on or asks some tough questions. In my job, I deal with conflict on a regular basis, and I have found it imperative to always treat others I am dealing with respectfully, even when we disagree. You state you want residents to participate and attend the meetings, but your actions show otherwise. People do not want to be talked down to, talked over, or dismissed. Most people shy away from conflict. I am not one of those people, but I am fairly certain I am the minority. Personal feelings have no place in these meetings. We will never like everyone we deal with in life, but that does not mean we cannot show each other respect. Everyone should be afforded the right to speak, ask questions, and request answers, not just people you like or people who agree with you. I thank you for your time for listening to me, and I'm hopeful things can get better, but time will tell.
Thank you, Ms. Reeser. Just a couple things. Remember, respect is a two-way street.
Yes.
So, for example, Mr. Galtier last week, or the last meeting, was very respectful in his talking to us. Mr. Hughes has done a lot on social media. He said a lot of things on social media that, quite frankly, sometimes you got to bully a bully. So what he did in social media and what he does is not respectful to us. So I don't take any of that back. And, you know, that's why he's treated like he is, because he treats us the other way. So that's number one. Number two, I'm your neighbor, so I'll actually come to your house and talk to you at any time, as I've done in the past with many people that I see on social media that may think the wrong thing. You're very close to me, so I'll knock on your door and come talk to you. My commitment, this week, if you're on. And I will explain everything about what's going on with the township and the many, many positive things
I
that are
don't
going on.
think we need to talk at my house, but if I have questions, what I see, I'm basing what I've seen. I've watched months of videos.
And keep in mind, the videos, we started to record that. So
I understand that. However, what I'm saying is, whatever happens on social media doesn't belong here. This meeting is about issues in the township, and I believe it should be about this meeting, not about what's posted on social media. That should not be brought into here.
Then I agree with you. I think we're in agreement there.
Well, you didn't say that,
Keep in mind, respect is a two-way street.
But you didn't say that.
You also brought up a comment he made on social media. So you actually initiated the social media into the meeting
What I'm
tonight.
saying, I said that he was familiar with my thoughts on
Right,
that.
but you can't say social media isn't a factor when you made it a factor.
I'm talking about the way you treat people on social media.
Right, but I'm just saying if you're going to include social media for some things, then you have to include it for everything. That's all I'm saying.
No, you're wrong.
Fair point.
You're wrong.
I think you do. That's why I don't comment on there. I save everything for here.
And the fact that not all of the meetings were recorded, unfortunately, you haven't been able to see his actions here in
I've
the
watched
news.
every meeting.
But they haven't all been posted. That's what I'm saying.
I've watched all of his meetings.
His, yes, of course.
And they're the meeting, they're not changed. They're the meeting minutes.
Okay.
They're the meeting.
All right, let's go. Mr. Hoover.
This is the last time I'm last.
Ms. Kircher's last.
You're not last.
Ms. Kircher's last.
You're not last tonight. You're not the grand finale.
Michelle's last.
Okay. First, I have a question. I don't know who I can address it to, John or Joe. I'm very much concerned about the manholes on 422. What is the plan for where you're redoing them when that blacktop gets on the finish? How are they supposed to be?
Well, PennDOT is supposed to make sure that those manholes are flush with the finished pavement surface when they put the wearing course in. So essentially, they're going to be flush. If any deviation, very minimal, but they should be flush and conform with the grade. Currently, there are some issues with the sewer. However, when they do the wearing in another month and a half, they're going to be required to make sure those manholes are flush, whether they're going to mill out some of the wearing some of the manholes are raised up high already, so they have to build around it because it becomes a hazard with the vehicle. So sometimes when you hit those manholes, it's not the most pleasant thing for riding, but it is standard practice to put a wearing around the manhole because typically it may be set 2 inches higher depending upon the finished wearing course. They're going to go in and probably put a leveling course and then probably 2 inches of more wearing. So those manholes can be technically 3 inches higher than the existing base course. So in order to keep them safe, they'll put wearing around them. So sometimes they'll have the perception that they're not set at the right elevation. But to answer your question, they are responsible to make sure those
I know that, but
manholes.
what my concern is, now that you're doing it and you have them exposed, it's my understanding, I'm not an engineer, but originally, they had rings on that could be removed and or added to when they blacked out. And now's the time, if they're not in working order, now's the time to change it. Because every time I leave here, I gotta go down the east side of 422. You got two of the worst right there. One's right there at the intersection where is it the one fast food place is right there in the corner. Well, right at that spot's a bad one, and about 2 car lengths is another one. I know they're there, so I drive around them. When you say they come out and they bevel them in to make it that it doesn't hurt, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'm not.
They're like 4 inches deep. And then you get bad weather, Ed. Like I say, now's the time to make those corrections. Don't make any more like that.
Well, that concern will be passed on to them. Believe me, we already have some concerns with our sanitary sewer in Perkiomen Avenue, and we're taking extra measures to videotape and make sure the integrity of that sewer line is in good order before they do the final wearing course. I mean, we don't have, unfortunately, it's PennDOT's contractor, so we can relay our concerns to them. The communication's going to have to come from PennDOT to the contractor, so if there's a problem in the manhole, that's why we attend these progress meetings
Well, that's
every
why I
2
want to run
weeks.
it by you in a reasonable way. You're the
If it's on a state road, then my suggestion would be to contact PennDOT.
Yeah, so.
That would be a township issue.
So this is down the.
But I'm sorry, if this is in the other direction on 422 or Perkiomen Avenue, then you need to contact PennDOT.
But up here in the new section of Penn site, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, that's not in Exeter.
Lower also something.
That's Mount Penn.
Okay, do you, well, as far you don't know,
No, we don't have any say to that.
nobody keeps an eye on that either.
PennDOT or Mount Penn officials.
I got a sore taste in my mouth. You never have time to do it right, but you got time to do it over.
I understand. your
And
concern.
after you ruin your vehicle, you know, who cares?
But believe me, we've relayed our concerns numerous times. You know, Clarence has been out there with his own crew, taking care of some issues. They will be required to, it's their road, and they're gonna be required to have that riding service, and our manholes in a situation where we're not gonna compromise.
I'll back off. If you went out to say there, I'll take the time, I have the hot number in home, and I'll make the call to the state myself.
If there's another situation somewhere else in the state road, I strongly suggest you can contact the local PennDOT office, which is out of town.
I have the number.
If it's the Perkiomen Avenue project, if it's in the Mount Penn area, you can contact PennDOT. It's outside our limits. I mean, we're only handling what's in our township so far. So if there's something in Mount Penn, I'm not sure who you would handle. I would suggest contacting PennDOT.
Okay, thanks for your time. I got one more thing to bring up. I've attended these meetings for quite some time, and I feel bad about it, that for some reason we lost contact. What I say by that is that our meetings, no matter what the situation is or the question, we don't get feedback. Now, I ran one by Sam here some time ago. I told the board, all good and well. The board doesn't say nothing to us, they didn't ask the question. So I think perhaps to help, if you want public input and a response, I think that you should give an update, like we used to get when you first started. We used to get an update of what transpired at the previous meeting. This was
That's the minutes, that's the minutes.
But can we maybe take, like, if we say we're gonna do something, we're gonna follow up, can we take action items, like, say, we followed up on this?
Nobody knows.
You're saying that the minutes of last meeting.
Review the minutes, approve our actions to do.
Like when he asked about Sam and that.
Well, that's old business. The old business is the stuff we're still working on.
With the money, to.
I think some of the things Glenn, you're talking about are ones that you have a specific interest in.
Yeah, give us an example of what you're looking for an update on that you haven't received. Just so, because I don't think any of us know what you mean. I thought old business in a minute. Okay.
I brought to your attention, I didn't get a newsletter, right? He sat there and read.
No, I gave you an autograph by me.
No,
I remember.
Don't waste my time.
And nobody in Momstown got one, and I think Michelle had told you that they contacted the post office.
No, I went to the post office. Yeah. And I shared my note with him.
Yeah, and Michelle did as well.
And like I said, until this time, I didn't get a feedback tonight as to what's going to happen. You just sat there and read. I don't think it's funny.
No, I don't.
You have to put it in writing, you know, wait 45 days.
No.
Michelle.
So unprovoked, Lori is actually going to corner you after this meeting because she does have an update to provide you. She actually took some of your feedback and she's got a plan, so she will be commenting, but it's particular to just you, which is why we didn't bring it up as a public piece.
Yeah, we can't put on the agenda, Glenn Hoover.
I don't want that. I don't want that. What is it?
I'm not discrediting your request for an answer, sir.
That's what he is.
Yep, that's.
And if I wasn't interested, I wouldn't come.
Yeah. And yeah, that's fair.
And same way with others. Other people had questions about the group homes. I was sitting along center, guys got one next to him. And there's more. And Sam's reply was great. But he only told the board, and I had to go up there and ask him personally. And before I got
Actually,
there,
that person,
Michelle.
that person hasn't been contacted. It's
So what he asked, what he asked
it's a
was,
police matter.
what was the procedure? Because in the future, I could say to somebody, here's the number to call. If you need assistance, they'll take care of that problem. But you can't share. If you don't know,
I understand.
No, we said to call the cops, call the police, and then if it's a non-police issue, they would give you the number, the Supportive Concepts hotline number.
I didn't get that. But he said, only the deal.
No, because Chief and Sam talked about the 800, the hotline number that I guess they created a couple years ago.
But the fact that you don't have no follow-up, I think that we're losing contact. I like to hear I like to hear from any of the officials, my problems are, what your feeling is.
But we do, that's what we do at this meeting, we talk about it. Somebody voiced their concern about the Supportive Concept situation. Hold on, I didn't interrupt you. The house with the padded room and the one guest, or client, or consumer, I think they call it. So they talked about when he gets out, and they were concerned. I remember the guy stood there, and I can't remember his name, but I remember what he looked like. And Chief addressed it, and Sam addressed it, and Sam spoke about, they've contacted Supportive Concepts, and 90% of the complaints are from this one consumer at this one address, and it's down to just him in the house with the padded room. And they said if there's an incident, you call the police, and if it's not a police issue, you call the hotline. And he said, okay, thank you. So, I mean, we're not going to put a Supportive Concepts update on the agenda, you know what I mean? But I think we do take into account concerns of the residents, and it was addressed, and Supportive Concepts took those concerns in years ago when they developed the hotline number, or however long ago they developed it. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think we are addressing concerns of residents.
Glenn, I think.
You listen well.
Glenn, let's have Michelle talk about it.
I just want to show a little bit of the kind of decision factor that goes into how we establish the agenda. As you can imagine, it is now 9:30, so we've been here for 2.5 hours without a break going through the agenda that we established for tonight. We spend a lot of time before the meeting deciding what goes on the agenda and how much we're going to cover. While I certainly would like to give an update on all items that we're reviewing, there is a lot to cover during this period. So we do pick and choose what topics we're covering to try to be respectful of everybody's time. To give you an update on every item that's of particular importance to you, when I have 26,000 other residents, I would also have to do that for, it gets to be a little bit of an insurmountable pile for me. So help me understand how we can kind of help keep communication open, but also keep these meetings efficient and effective and running on time.
appreciate the great job that you're doing, but like I say, for whatever reason, believe me, I don't mean it for argument, but
I'm not taking it that way.
I just think that, don't take my point of view, you know, I listen to other people's comments, and from that I get educated.
Right.
You know, but if I don't get a reply, if I don't hear a reply, I'm lost.
Right.
I think you should, but you should follow up with that person. Like if you were waiting on Sam for a question, you should go to Sam at the next meeting and say, Sam.
Sam might die in the next week.
Well, that's what she said.
She
All right, one more. Are you good, Glenn? We'll
Yes,
fix
I'd
it.
like to comment if you can allow us some time to think about how we can do that for you going forward. I'm not really sure what the answer is yet. So let me think about that.
I just, don't take my point, go back perhaps and review maybe an old set of minutes for where the agenda was, and you'll see there the items that, businesses, and they're listed. And you can walk through them, you know where you are.
I will do that.
We did this.
Do you read the minutes? Do you read them, Glenn? Do you read the old minutes? Do you read the old minutes on the website?
No, I haven't. I don't have a computer.
Okay.
But do I read the minutes? Which year do you want?
Yeah.
2013.
I can bring them in.
I bet he could.
I bet it could. Absolutely. Thank you. We'll
Ms.
do
Kircher,
that.
public comment, the last one of the night.
Michelle Kircher, 1101 Stonehenge Drive. I have quite a few comments of my living. First of all, if we have a large agenda, and the supervisors are there to service the residents of this township. We had 3 meetings a month. If we needed more and we had special meetings, we had them. We, as supervisors, are there to service the residents of this township. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is, John, when I first came to these meetings, you were quite rude with me and kept trying to blame me for the country club. I wasn't even on the board when they purchased the country club. So I excused it to your lack of experience, and I am a better person than you are, and did take it and just try to blow it off.
I'll be good. I'll behave. Go ahead.
Now, I've been
It's your
around
public
a lot
comment, not mine.
longer, so
Thanks.
let's
That's a compliment
go
for my
with
age.
that.
I'll take that as a compliment.
And trying to get along and trying to do a job.
And we have.
Okay, and the agendas, if you look back, still don't have the communications in, which it should have listed. I think you need more. They had communications incoming and outgoing. We talked about this before. What came in for communications, what went out. Also, you need some more on all the new business. What is, for example, you have here about the UP Morgan development. I don't know where that is. Probably half the people here don't know what it is. You need to explain some things to the residents so they understand. It's on page 2 of today's.
Yeah, I think we did read that. We did explain.
Yeah, you need to do some explanations and not just think because you know that we know. So that will help too. Also for when Pennsylvania American had the water boil advisory, you had it on Facebook and Twitter maybe. I don't know what it is. Yeah, and a website. I don't do Facebook because I was tired of it and just gave it up, and I know a lot of people have. We have that the call system. I don't know what it's called.
Well, that's a PA Water. They sent Code Red out. People got Code Red, so.
No, we didn't.
I've talked to many people that did get it.
Yeah, water, we didn't get Exeter Township Code Red. Wasn't our problem.
So you did get a Code Red, is what you're saying.
No, we got something, on our website, what actually lists what water advisories under Exeter
But you should
Code
have
Red.
gone, you should have gone to PA Water.
We did, but I'm saying, on our website, on the Exeter website, the new one, under Code Red, if you read it, it says boil water advisories. The township itself did not do a Code Red. The township did not order.
But we should not have.
Well, it's listed on the website, so maybe that's incorrect, that's a code red from the township. It's listed on the township's website, if you pull it up, it's listed there.
Yeah, but we're not, PA Water provides the water, so.
Well, it's misleading then, because that doesn't say PA will send it out, it's listed under code red on the township. So if it's there incorrectly, people were expecting.
So you would rather two communications, just.
Well, not everybody, I'm just saying, not everybody's, that code red, that comes out, people appreciate that. They get it right away, they know, what if you're not available, you know what I'm saying? Like,
If the number wasn't updated with the water company, you didn't get that.
Yes.
So I didn't get it, my wife.
But that's your responsibility. To do that, to
But it's only one number.
Yeah.
It's an agreement, the township.
So, in order to avoid more confusion than there already was with the water advisory, because we would have to put it out to everybody in the township. And some residents in this township have no idea who their water source is, if they have a well or what the thing is. So we had many, many calls from people who had wells to see if they had a problem. People were asking if their bottled water had problems. We had many questions here that we had to field. If we would have put it out to everyone, it would have caused even more confusion.
I think it would cause chaos.
Because not the entire township was affected, and we had no idea, no way of doing it to just that area. So that's why PA American handled their utility.
And I did get a lot of people say that they got great communication from PA Water.
I guess it's confusing, because
Okay.
when you look on our website under code red, which we assume, maybe incorrectly, is the township, it says boil water advisory, so we figured we would get a code red advisory. Now, if that's only if the entire township is under, then maybe that just needs to be clarified. I'm just saying, as a resident, I found that confusing, because I looked on it.
We will prioritize that.
You can also talk to the utilities and tell them it's their responsibility to go through your system and they have to pay for it. And also, with the transparency, to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. And also, I still am going to say, and I said this many, many years ago, the two worst things the township could ever do was sell their water system, and they did, and sell the sewer plant. And I am very sad to have to say that I'm hearing from many residents that they're leaving because of the sewer plant being sold, that won't be able to.
Find me
Don't laugh at this. This is
Find me one.
very
Find me one.
serious.
Find me one. I want their name and number.
You know,
Are you done?
no, I'm not finished. Why
is it a joke to him?
Because people are taking this they're very upset about it. They really are. And,
Hold on one second. We're not robots. So you're telling him to wipe his smile off his face. Maybe that's just a nervous reaction he has. And
well, it is, I'm sorry. Okay?
I'm a middle child.
If it is.
That offended me.
But it just
Middle child syndrome.
talking about losing their home, it upsets me.
It upsets me too.
And I don't like that at all when they're upset. And I'm just saying it's a serious matter. And I would like to see a list of the projects that you all have decided that we want and what the cost is going to be. Because today, with the pension plan, you talked about putting another $10 million there.
We're going to talk about that, yes.
And I would like to see where all this money is going, and I think everybody else.
Remember, we said after the sewer plant is sold, we're going to have a public meeting on the disbursements. No, it hasn't. Not sold yet.
Well, almost, but we would like to see where this money's going.
We are going to do that, yes.
And I think we're entitled to that.
Yes, and that's why we said.
And I did not mean to offend you about like this.
I'm never offended.
It brings tears to my eyes.
I'm never offended. Thank you, Ms. Kircher. Wonderful job in public comments. Next up, supervisor reports. Vinny.
I'll start out with a couple positives. So I did meet with Mike Chapina and actually Michelle and Jen. We met with Mike talking about just future projects that are coming up with the promenade and the rec center. And like I said, we would also like the school's input in that. And I am going to have another meeting with Mike next week. We're going to try and just make sure. I didn't bug him too much because with their budgets and everything with the school board. So now we're going to get something on the books. We're going to have like a monthly meeting for sure. And I'm going to get input from the board members to bring up questions, concerns, that we can help tie it together, where we're going to be working together to get some things done. I was helping out with the brick project, with the ECEF, and I'm doing lighting at the Eagle. So the bricks are pretty cool. If you bought a brick, and they're actually taking orders for next year if you want to still order some bricks. And so hopefully, I think by Thursday we might have them next week, and then once that's done, I'll finish up the installation of the lights around the Eagle, and that'll actually be pretty cool. Cause I just couldn't believe that thing hasn't been lit in all the years that it was installed.
You make a light shine on my brick, and I was awarded from the school district. Just asking.
Unfortunately, I think Johnny put that one face down. A lot of questions. A lot of people always say about when people don't work in a township or they don't work here. In my job, I go to about 150 Wells Fargo's, and I go up to about 3.5 hours away sometimes. And to be honest, I treat every single one of them as if it says person's home, and that's why I've been doing it for almost 15 years. So when someone, just because they don't live in a township, especially John Granger, it matters whether our taxes go up and everything, because his job's on the line. If he's not doing his job, which is the best for this community and the residents, then he shouldn't be here. So I think that every person, it doesn't matter if you live in a township or, there's a lot of people who, I would even say 60 to 70% of the people who live in Exeter don't work in Exeter. So I just think that the fact that just because you don't live here doesn't mean that you're not going to do your job. So that's about it. And I don't want to get ahead of anybody, but I mean, with the recent family tragedy, I do believe there's going to be something at
Dawson Family.
I believe there's going to be a Thursday at Red Rita's. So, come on out, support. I think.
And then, there's going to be one on Tuesday, August 20th, 4 to 8 at Dairy Queen. I'm actually helping Babu Patel. I think we sent it to you guys, your Facebook page. So keep that going. Tuesday, August 20th, 4 to 8 at Dairy Queen. It's going to all the 25% of the proceeds benefit. I'll send it to you, Jason, as well. Benefit the Dawson family.
Yeah. Liberty's doing one too, I think, Monday.
Before mine, before the Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. They're great people. And the mom, I mean, all the prayers to her. I mean, I just pray she stays strong. And so.
Thank you, Ben. Aaron?
I was going to bring up the communication of the water, so we talked about that. And then just on another communication thing, so my company uses a software to collect questions before and or during public town hall type meetings. So I mentioned it to Michelle, we talked about that, looking into if we can do something to, add another forum for people to ask their questions, things like that.
Excellent. Jeff?
I just wondered if there was any update on the RFQs for the country club and what the deadline is. I know a lot of people have been asking, so instead of bringing it up at the meeting, and what the phases are for the RFP then and that type of stuff.
With what is transpiring at the country club, and we had took a long time to get the agreement between the township and the High Associates together. We've extended the time frame until mid-November before we get any proposals back. One of the things that High has done, they have retained a well-known national organization that does golf course sales and our marketing and stuff like that. Not only sales, but bringing in operators. So that was an important element that I felt was important from the conversation we had at the board, that we include that in there. It took a little bit of time to get that, those two parties to agree on things. I wanted to make sure that was the agreement. So we've extended the time frame until mid-November.
So the RFQ deadline's been extended to mid-November. That's correct. And then after that, obviously we'd review, and then it would be RFP time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But I think we'll get some very good responses, primarily because of this golf course company involved in this.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Dave?
He looks so similar.
I thought, yeah, the mid-year reports, I mean, I thank the staff, I mean, I think they were well done, and it was a nice length to get a snapshot of everything that's going on in the community, so I mean, that couple minute, I think is important to know all the activities that are going on, so I thought they were really well done and to the point, and there's other background information. I think we've heard a couple times, I think Lynn's brought up, other people brought up, Michelle brought up about the communications. I like Darren's idea as well, of gathering these questions, that there's something there that they don't fall off the page, we answer them. So I wasn't around, I saw some of the communications ingoing, outgoing, so maybe we can look into the options again. I think that would be great to clear up some of these, because sometimes I go back, a couple months and realize there's a couple things that we forgot.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think that would be very important, so thanks for bringing it up.
And I just want to thank Vinny for the great work you did with the school and the Eagle and the bricks. So we're excited to see that project come to fruition, and it's a great collaboration with the Exeter Community Education Foundation. And then Tuesday, August 20th, 4 to 8 at Dairy Queen, we're doing a fundraiser for the Dawson family in conjunction with Brooks Hometown Heroes and Dairy Queen. So if you guys could come out to that. That's all I had. Motion?
Wishing well.
Yeah, wishing well.
It's still the wishing well at the stadium, because a lot of people like sit up on the hill and not actually go in the stadium and watch. So they can throw a little donation in there, so the school, that whoever team that's playing can get a little bit more, get some money for people not coming in and paying to watch the game. So.
Excellent. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Need a second?